10 seconds. The intro.
Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
It's a three from Hepburn, and he hits it! Toss, half court. Oh, there he goes! Jackson Davis. Second one. Thompson. No good. They're going to have a chance. 2 seconds. 1 second. Oh, Dickinson didn't see it. Michigan turns it over. For three. No. Rebound. Pepper. And that's it. The UNC Asheville Bulldogs are the top dogs in the Big South and are headed to the NCAA tournament. Nembhard will try from deep, and a big shot for Nembhard. Ryan Nembhard with three more. It's been a good big man battle tonight.
Oh, the heavyweight fight has been good. It's round for round, pound for pound.
Lawrence, quick three is good for Jamarcus Lawrence. Big man running the floor. Dish in the corner. Lawrence open. Lawrence gets the roll. Austin got it back. Lawrence will try from the corner, and he hits his fifth from deep.
All right, we welcome you in on a Monday. No manic crap going on around here on Coffee and Cream in the morning. I'm getting a smidge of an echo, but as you fine folks know, that's just DB air probably. I'll get it figured out. That little chuckle you hear is my ace, Ravi Lulla, filling in for Andrew Uncle Ruru Rogers, who is on the mend. Still probably a couple days out, but we're getting there. We're making progress, man. Good morning. How are you?
Man, I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good, man. A lot. Like, this is one of those days where you're just not gonna get to it all.
Yeah. It was a busy weekend.
It's a lot. There's a lot going on, man. A lot going on. You had Big Ten wrestling, you had UFC. Those are kind of the Olympic sports that I was gravitating towards all weekend. Baseball was good. Softball, of course, college hoops. I'm recording the NFL Combine still.
Are you a big Combine guy?
I'm a big Combine
Dude, so
guy.
am I. I love the Combine.
I'm a big NFL Combines guy. I like the differing opinions. And it appears we joked about this last week.
Mm-hmm.
It appears the Richardson thing is like real.
Yeah,
I get it, but it's real.
I mean, I get it, but I also don't get it.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, we have a really long track record.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
This not working out.
Oh, I know.
And then we have like one dude where it worked out.
I know.
So now we're like, hey, it worked out once. Obviously, we have to try this again.
It is.
I don't know, man.
Ooh-wee. So we'll get to that. We've got college hoops.
A lot
obviously.
of college hoops.
You
know me, like that's where I was living. Like once the calendar turns to March,
yeah,
and like I'm holed up in my office. I got the multiple screens rocking.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where I live.
Spent a lot of my time in Lincoln for a multitude of reasons. No, I was not hanging out with Coach Rule, if you want to ask.
Didn't want to stop.
No, he went out of town real quick to celebrate his little girl's 10th birthday. Matter of fact, what is today, the 7th?
It is the 6th. Tomorrow's the 7th.
Yeah, so tomorrow is his daughter's birthday. So
nice.
Make sure.
There you go.
And because I know you're a big Nebraska football fan. Actually, it's funny how people think you really aren't. And I'm like, he really grew up a fan. He just doesn't like bad coaching.
I really don't like bad coaching. And here's the man. I really,
am I throwing you too big of a softball on a Monday morning?
No, like it's because it's more complicated than people think. Yeah. For me, it is because, and I don't even know if you know this.
Which part?
Well,
do tell.
I mean, I don't know if I've been with you when I've kind of told this story about my whole like history with
Behringer.
Brooke. Yeah.
Oh no, I've heard. I usually always listen to you.
So
Unfortunately,
Part-
unfortunately, I don't know whichever.
part of the issue I had was like after Brooke died, like I had a really hard time.
Mhm.
Like it felt weird to be a Nebraska fan and be like mourning this guy that I knew but didn't really know.
Mhm.
And so that was weird. So my relationship with Husker football after his death was pretty complicated.
It's funny how you say that, your relationship with football.
I mean, it's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Oh,
invest
for sure.
time and money
for
and,
sure.
and emotional energy into it. Like we don't like to put it that way.
Big football energy.
But you have a relationship with Nebraska football, whether you like it or not. And let's be honest, it's been rocky for a while now. Like we need to get some marriage counseling with our relationship with Husker football.
It's not you, it's me.
I think it's everybody, right? We're not communicating clear expectations, things like that, like important parts of a relationship.
Oh, I get it.
And so, but for me, because I had that moment where my I got my heart broken when Brooke died, like a lot of people did, whether they knew him or not.
Yeah. Oh,
And
for sure.
because he was that kind of guy that had that kind of impact on people in the state and whatever. And so since then, when a team is not, I don't want to say team because that makes it sound like I'm talking about the players. When the coaching is not likable, I really, really struggle because I've seen what it can be. And more than just on the field, right? That's why we were talking about this with Dr. Elza on Friday, right?
Hey, I don't know if you go back and listen to things.
As much as I can.
She was fantastic.
So good. So good. And it had very little to do with us.
Well, and she did like she did like our lines of questioning like that. I know
she appreciated that we kind of got what their purpose is here. Because we weren't asking a lot of, I think we asked maybe a couple like football questions. We asked a lot of people questions.
Yeah, she's, I can't remember the verbiage she used. A little bit of it was above my vernacular, but I think she appreciated the depth.
Yeah, I agree. But she
sent Shane a nice note. Did she send you a nice note, Shane? By the way, good Monday morning to you, buddy.
Good morning. Yes, she did.
Yeah.
It was.
She sent a fire and corn emoji.
She's getting her Matt
Rule
emoji.
Yeah,
do they take like a class when they get hired?
Hey,
it's
listen,
like, hey,
emojis 101.
But that's part of the reason I'm kind of Kool-Aid drinking with Matt Rule right now. Like we were talking about, it's like we don't want to be the Kool-Aid drinker, but it's really hard not to be right now with this staff and the way they're going about their business. Part of the reason I am that way is because I've seen the way Nebraska football can impact people's lives, not just on the field and they're winning and it's awesome and national championships and whatever, but I've seen the way, I mean, it's easy, even, they just did the Team Jack fundraiser, right?
Yeah.
You can even go to things like that in the not so distant past.
I know everybody was comparing and contrasting. I spent so much time in Lincoln these last couple of days. I was hearing like, it's just weird how I'm mad at you, but I'm not mad at you in the same vein. When you asked me, because it was a jumping off part for some pretty deep conversations. You're like, wait, man, is it just because it's been so bad? Like, is it the natural compare and contrast?
Right. Yeah.
But guess what? I heard the bulk of my time that I'm in Lincoln, it was
comparing and contrasting.
I think. Well, we never saw this, and he did this, and we never saw this contingency of the staff doing this at this place, and. So I understand, but you know me, it doesn't fit my personality, right? Because I'm one of those guys that I'm just not, I don't need a pound of flesh. I'd rather move on. If I can't go back and get it, like I'm moving on, because
you can't go back and do anything about it.
Yeah, man, because you're talking to a guy, listen, that was a prisoner of his own shoddy decision making for 4 or 5 years. Like, I'm not going back there.
Yeah, like let's go forward.
I'm just not going back there. Yeah. So, but it was crazy.
But it's a different dynamic when you're the victim of other people's bad decision making. Yeah. And it's hard. Honestly, I think that's harder to get past.
You know, a whole funny checkers and chess thing.
What's that?
So I always have to, like, I'm trying really hard. The holes on my calendar are so minuscule.
Yeah,
You're barely getting You're barely getting any liquid to sift out of there. I'm so
you might
tight
be
with,
the busiest person I know.
I'm guarding my emotions and my mind with this staff so tight. Like, I'm looking for any reason to not like them, right? I'm just not.
Yeah.
Especially when you could potentially have a family member involved. You're like,
Sure.
oh man, 4 or 5 years here, 3 or 4 years, whatever. So I'm not saying I don't want to like him, but I'm just saying I'm fairly critical, which is why I'm way past the topical stuff. So we're having this conversation on Friday with Coach Rule, talking about birthday parties and stuff like that, and we're just talking whereabouts. I'm like, hey, still down in Lincoln, watching my daughter. They'd taken a tough loss to Lincoln High, so no big deal, right? Hang up the phone. 25 minutes later, a particular coach calls. He says, hey, did you bring the whole fam down? I said, yeah, I got the whole fam. This was just but we talked about a ton of other things, right?
Yeah.
Hey, did you bring the whole fam down? Yeah, the whole fam's here. 9:45 on my way back to Omaha. I hear my kid talking in the back seat, and he's used to use my car, and it goes to Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So I heard the initial, hey, this is such and such.
Yeah.
Man, he spends 20 minutes on the way back talking to a staff member. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this a checkers or a chess moment? First of all, who's calling at 9:45 at night? Did you know that we were in the car on our way back?
Probably. You could probably figure.
That's a chess moment, right?
You're like, I've got a captive audience.
But who does that though? That was 3 hours earlier. We were having this conversation.
Yeah.
Those are the things that get me to think, like, come on, man. Like, coincidence? No, that's not a coincidence.
No, because there's too many things like that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's a real specific example that, like, only people like you have that are in your situation. But there's too many things, even for public perception.
But you realize, like, he's doing something else entirely with the fam.
Yeah.
Like, you're preoccupied.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
but it's still
That's why when you asked me the question about how often is Matt Rule the smartest person in the room, and I said probably more often than not, but he doesn't act that way. It's stuff like that, because he can genuinely be present somewhere, but still take these little morsels of information and be like, oh, I can use that later to build more relationships.
And you know me, see, I'm so weird. I like to get inside the mind, right? Like, I want to be a profiler. So, like, when I'm talking
to Criminal Minds,
so like, I'm always looking for, and so one of the things that I think is interesting is, and I've said this, and I'm going to keep saying this until they prove me wrong. His ability to process real time, assess, be listening, but be thinking of the next move is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's that ability to be present where you are, but still process where you want to be going, or what's next, right? Like, it's a thing that really high level executives have at Fortune 500 companies or whatever, because you have to have your mind on 100 different things at the same time, but you also have to be incredibly present for the one thing right in front of you. And not very many people are good at that.
It reminds me a little bit of, on a smaller scale, I remember I used to say that about Coach Frank, who formerly head coach at Omaha West Side, where I'm like, you'd be a miserable person to play cards with. Right? Because you get the sense, like, when he's talking to you, he's processing information rapidly. He has a very good sense of recall, and you'll hear about it like 2 weeks later, and you had no idea he was paying attention. So you're like, I don't want to play cards with that guy.
Yeah.
Because he's just the reads, right?
Well, and you can't say anything offhand, right? Because everything means something to him. And he's going to use it, whether for or against you. He's going to use it, right?
So I like being around people like that, just because I think you have a chance to learn. Huge weekend, man. Congratulations to Southeast Missouri State and Fairleigh Dickinson and
all those automatic qualifiers. Drake, our
UNC
guy Drake.
Asheville, yeah, Kennesaw State. I was gonna save them for last.
Oh, my bad.
Drake, no. It's
Jumped the gun a little
No,
bit.
me and you, man, we just talked.
I was just watching that game and I was like,
and plus, I think we're both Team DeVries.
yeah, for sure. And that was a whooping.
Dude, he's fantastic.
They've won 25 games in 3 straight seasons. They've never won fewer than 20 with him as their head coach.
How about Tucker's accolades? He's officially the man.
He's okay. Definitely doesn't make me mad that he's not at Creighton ever. Oh, I gotta go play for my dad. Whatever. Guess what? We've seen that before. Tucker.
Hey, but you know what though? This may be the poor man's version.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens with the transfer market, and that's a whole nother conversation because I think they're going to at least be in position to get a guy.
That's kind of like a Tucker 2.0 a little bit.
But you have a similar version of him sitting on your bench redshirting, and his name is Jason Green.
Oh, okay.
Now he doesn't necessarily have the go get a bucket mentality that TD does.
I don't know that his skill set's quite as advanced.
Well, I know one thing. He very comparable in terms of ball handling for a big.
Yes.
You'll be amazed when you watch Jason Green.
Oh, I watched him a lot at Miller North.
So, but you know what? That was a shell of who he's capable of being. I'm dead serious.
I think so. I agree.
So I think the biggest difference, and again, I'm not one guy's going to be a couple of time conference player of the year candidate, and one guy's redshirting.
Yeah.
But at the same age, this is like in high school, the only real difference was the scorer's mentality.
Sure.
Tucker had the green light to go get buckets. JG was playing with Hunter and Saint.
Yes. Yeah. The environment in which they came up through their high school was very different.
Yeah.
Because Jason, like you said, had these Power 5 Division I guys on his team.
Yep.
He deferred to them a lot until his senior year, which that's why I was so surprised that they won state his senior year, because I didn't realize how much more to his game there was.
Oh, we got into a knockdown
until
drag.
Hunter and Saint left, and that's nothing against Hunter and Saint.
We got
awesome,
into
right?
it. Wasn't a knockdown drag out. We were watching Lincoln High and Miller North on Friday night, and Saint and Oklahoma Tyler were sitting right behind us.
Oh, nice.
And so we just all of a sudden got into like historical context of Nebraska high school basketball and prowess, and Saint was kind of critiquing his teams and basketball. Then I drop air quotes to basketball now, even though it was only a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, just you saying that he's like ranking those 3 years in a row that they made those runs. And that was just 3 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
And we're still talking about when you're comparing one group of seniors multiple years to rank the degree of proficiency, that was a good stretch.
Yes.
We're not even going back past 2018, and we're just talking Miller North basketball, right? And the whole thing that started the conversation was somebody was it Timo's? Somebody asked, maybe we're just no, it was Saint that asked out loud, because Bellevue West is in position to go undefeated.
Yeah,
if they want to win a state title, they will have gone undefeated. So we were asking about historical context in terms of best ever. And I was like, no. Like, certainly not in the top 10 of teams that I've seen from a talent standpoint.
I would say the talent is where the first thing I thought of was just top end talent.
But then we got into this argument about doing things relative to who you're playing against.
Sure.
And I get that. Yeah. But when you talk historical context, you have to talk historical relevance.
Yes.
And Coach Woodard would probably slap my hand because they haven't even tipped.
Ain't nothing happened yet.
Yeah. Like nothing's happened yet. But anyway, on a similar note, man, congratulations to the young ladies who cut down the nets in Lincoln. I think the Brett Prince verdict is out.
She's pretty good.
Listen, she's unbelievable.
What'd she have, like 30 on 13 shots?
Listen, I've been watching her do it since forever.
Yeah.
I watched her walk into a Kiewit gym in the city championship against Keywood against my daughter and single-handedly go for like 34
Yeah,
and a 42 point something total game, right? So
that's hard to do.
I've seen her act for a long,
I think
long
our
time.
guy, Padilla said, I think because she's 10th in the country to
Yeah,
ESPN
top 10.
or whatever.
And he's like, yeah, I'd like to see the other 9.
yeah, it's like I'm not saying they're bad players, but they got to be something else to have 9 better than her.
Yeah. Pender gets it done. They were my dark horse to win it in C2. Millard South. I saw Coach Meyer.
Yeah.
I saw Bryce yesterday. He was coaching his son over at the field house. And I said, this is kind of weird because we're peers, but I'm proud of you.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, woe is him. The pressure of having a good team. They almost didn't get over the hump, Ravi, and I was happy for that senior group.
Honestly, there is more pressure when your team is good.
Yeah.
I get that there's different pressure when you're bad, but having been in that spot before, expectations have way more pressure than trying to build.
Again, another group of young ladies with Chloe Lemon and Maya Babbitt and Cora
Did
Olson.
they have 3 go for 20 in that game?
Listen, almost every night out.
What are you supposed to do with that?
Again, I've seen that group.
What are you supposed to do with that?
Go over to the middle school championships.
I don't care what level you're playing.
Yeah.
If you got three people going for 20 a night,
yeah,
you're gonna lose to that team almost every time.
And I'm telling you, you like shooters?
Yeah.
Maya Babbitt shoots that thing.
Yep.
it's like
go get it.
Yeah, it's so good on them. I mean, it's fantastic week. The boys will get started. When we come back, we'll take a quick break from the big picture. We'll drill down. We'll talk basketball this weekend as bracket play is set for the local schools. Creighton, see if you like their draw. Nebraska to be a play-in team, having won 6 out of your last 8. You were trying to avoid that Wednesday. You'll tip about 9. You got a very winnable game.
It is. That's not bad.
And we need to talk. And when we talk to Mike DeCourcy, we'll ask, man, best wishes cap in the Big Ten, because it is.
I don't know what to do there. No idea.
Who's Rutgers? Wasn't Rutgers good? Wasn't Rutgers good 12 days ago?
I was
15 days
I was
ago.
going to say about 14 minutes ago. It seemed like they were good.
So we'll get into that. We've got our usual a special guest, Michael Severe. We'll talk NFL Combines at 7:45. Sam McKewon in his usual 8:00 slot. We'll talk to Brady Oltmans at 9, recruiting, and again, he's got versatility. Maybe we'll touch on Nebraska baseball this weekend, and Mike DeCourcy at Mike TSN will join us at 9:45. Who you better have good questions, because he's not the go along to get along guy.
I've noticed a theme with your guests on.
Don't be asking him any chump stuff. Well, those guys are he's just not going to play along.
Yep.
Hey, you ask a leading question and he's quick to say, yeah, I don't know about that, but you're like, hey,
see if I can play some Jedi mind tricks on.
Yeah,
get him where I want to go.
We're trying, and so when we come back, we'll talk college hoops and your level of surprise on whose start was more off of what you thought going in. Creighton or Nebraska?
Okay.
College hoops recap coming up. That's my guy, Ravi. Lulla, I'm Old DB. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet studio. Fantastic show brought to you by the Beanery. Had a smoothie and a half this weekend because
nice.
Zoe was being a little bit selfish. The Beanery, we always appreciate them where they just serve good coffee. And my man Liquid Shano over there on the 1s and 2s. Coming back, it's Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute.
Back in 30.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds.
Trey Palmer ran from Nebraska. Yeah, he's fast.
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Keisei Tominaga, deep three, no problem for Keisei.
Sign us up for this all day. I mean, this is just haymaker after haymaker from both sides. Threes going down everywhere.
Oh, that voice, that is Robbie Hummel. That is the great Kevin Kugler. I'm biased, but I think everybody's good with Kevin Kugler.
No, he's one of the best at what he does.
He is the single greatest assist play-by-play person of all time.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
No hyperbole. I'm just telling you.
So he sets up his color man really, really well.
Really, really. It is, unless you're just flat out god awful terrible.
Sure.
And you won't be, because he gets the best screws. He's the best assist man in radio and
Interesting.
television. He just is.
Yeah.
Because he's so established and he doesn't have to worry about getting his.
Yeah. Which even when guys are established in that role, a lot of times they still do.
He's fantastic. Did you see McCaffrey hit him with the that's 5 when he hit his 5th 3? Because he told him.
Did he?
Yeah, he told him pregame, I'm gonna get 5. And K2 and Hummel were just laughing their head off because he flashed them a little 5 when McCaffrey hit his 5th. But yeah, because I don't know, I used to like Hummel better in studio. But I kind of like him on broadcast.
I don't mind him.
You know who's grown on me over the years?
Who's that?
Bardo. I used to not.
I struggled with Bardo for a long time.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like
he's not bad at it. Like I think I don't know if he just kind of figured it out, but he was doing it for a long time for him to just click.
Yeah.
At some point. So maybe I've gotten soft. I don't know.
No. Here, we're trying to talk you into stuff off air, and you're like, no, it's not diagonal. Ravi, yes, it is.
Listen, it's like just a smidge.
That is, I did not realize that you're such a poor parker.
It's more that sometimes I'm careless if there's not.
You know what I call guys like you?
What's that?
Selfish.
Oh, who's gonna be here?
But I'm just saying. No, I understand. Selfish. But yeah, exactly. You never know. You cannot be a bad parker, and we hang out.
I can predict with pretty good accuracy when it's going to be necessary to not take up.
So, what was your train of thought again? When you
there's no we're the only ones here.
Yes,
we're going to be the only ones here by the time we leave.
Well, I don't know.
For the most part, it's not going to be a packed lot.
Okay.
So, space conservation is not my number one priority here.
Space conservation.
Yeah.
That's what we're on this early on a Monday.
Absolutely. Listen, you're coming at me. I'm coming back, all right?
Well, and it was dark out.
It was dark.
Who are you vouching for?
Shane's got me. The other thing is,
you're listening to a dude that's parked 61 feet from the curb.
But he's in the lines, just like I am.
Dude, that is diagonal.
No, it's not. Okay.
I'm going to take it to Twitter.
Do it. Because if you look at the line, I am barely not lined up. Like I'm in both my lines. Am I not in both my lines? I am.
Are, but you're way too close to one of the white lines. You're messing it like D.O. Hughley. You're messing it up.
Okay,
for
but
everyone.
Listen, here's the other thing. I'm not messing it up because we got Shane's little Hot Wheels over there only taking up half a space. So between me and Shane, there's plenty of room for another car.
Are you old enough to remember the cars that you would put the little zip tie in and you pull it out and then you'd set the car down and it would go?
Oh, I didn't have them, but I know what they are.
Shane, what were those called again? Did you used to have one of those?
On like the racetrack?
Yeah.
I wanted one real bad.
And you pull it and the wheels would spin and then you put it.
Yeah.
That's like Shane's little car.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's plenty of room between his car and my car for another vehicle.
I like to think of my car as a slot car. I just slot it right in.
Yeah, whatever. Welcome back to Coffee and Cream. Hopefully you're listening on 590 or YouTube, television. If you're not, why wouldn't you?
Just wherever they can find us, everywhere.
Live from the H&H studio. So
can I ask you a question since we're already a little off topic here?
Yeah, always.
Okay, so I go in and get my coffee this morning, right?
Yeah.
Go to the beanery, get coffee. When I'm getting my coffee, the young lady who was taking my order, very kind, she goes, "Would you like a straw?"
Yes.
Is that a thing people do?
So, yes.
With coffee.
It's iced, right?
Yeah, because you got the little hole, though. You got
right,
the little...
but I think she may think you want to get your stir game right.
Oh, yeah, no, I just do one of these.
There's an iced coffee in our fridge.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. I know it's Caleb. I know it's Caleb. I didn't even know that was a thing, though.
Iced coffee or the straws?
That he
drank iced coffee.
Unless.
Okay.
Now, this scares me.
Uh-oh.
He did drive his brother home from my mom's last night.
Okay.
He promised him to stop and get a coffee.
Okay.
Micah has mentioned iced coffees before. But he's 13.
I think you may have a situation
that did not come from this side of the street. It came from anything That would be his mom. I'm pleading no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thief on that one.
I didn't realize anyone used a straw with this type of lid.
Yeah,
that's news to me.
Full disclosure.
Yeah,
I'm so insecure when I used to. Part of the reasons that I don't have mixed drinks, like minor, like 20% of the reason.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to see me with a little stirring straw or any fruit. So I just give it to me straight.
See, I used to be
chilled on the rocks. I'm a man, hear me grunt.
I used to be that way. This was probably like 5 years ago. Before that, I would do like the whiskey or Jack and Diet or, like the acceptable manly mixed drinks.
Air quotes.
Yeah, like give me
toxic masculinity 101.
Give me, whatever. And then I was like, you know what tastes better? The fruity stuff. So
I just made fun of one of our wrestling coaches a couple weeks ago for digging the cherry out of his glass with his hand.
So I'm
you're too old for that.
I'm probably not.
Zoe would do that with a Shirley Temple.
I'm probably not digging the cherry out, but the drink for sure is coming with some kind of garnish.
He was sitting in his chair, kind of hunched over with his prison stance, and he looked at me and he goes, "But these cherries are good, though."
Listen, they are. Those maraschino cherries, especially get a little alcohol on them with the mix, and they're delicious. But yeah, I just kind of decided one day, and I kind of remember exactly when it happened. I was like, you know what? I'm going to drink the stuff that tastes good.
And worry about the image later?
Yeah, and I was like,
were you Sprite way before Sprite?
No, well, kind of.
Obey your thirst.
Well, I was just like, listen, if somebody's going to judge me based on what I drink, I probably don't want to hang out with that person.
You're like, hey, bartender, Cosmo, 8 on the double.
Well, I'll go like I'll do like an occasional amaretto sour. Those are tasty.
Okay, you're killing me.
I drink a lot of margaritas now.
Okay,
love margaritas.
You're also killing me.
I know
nobody in their right mind would dilute good tequila, but that's
I don't dilute my good tequila. I have margarita tequila, and then I've got straight tequila. You gotta have 2 different tequilas.
I understand.
I'm not making margaritas with the Clase Azul over here, man. Like, come on.
Hey, I would like that top shelf reposado in my tequila.
Absolutely.
By the way, we didn't even get
that's
to
what like the Terramana's for, is for like the margarita.
Yeah,
mix.
Montezuma's Revenge. Hey. Real quick, consider we got to Creighton in Nebraska in this segment.
Yeah, we got to everything.
Let's get to Michigan Lance. Michigan Lance, good morning, man. How are you?
Hey, good morning, boys. It's been a weekend, hasn't it?
Yeah.
With basketball.
All over the place, man.
AD decided to play and show up and
so Ravi's Golden State Warriors may be on the outside looking in. I know they think they can light switch this thing, but they're in trouble.
I've been out for a while.
They're in trouble
this year. Yeah, I'm not buying.
Oh, most definitely. And Steph Curry never gets the backlash on these down years either. He's had quite a few. I mean, for people to say he's the best point guard ever and all this and that. Hey, man.
Lance, I'm
not saying he's a bomb.
I thought we were going to have a good morning, Lance. You're going to.
This is his guy.
I thought we were going to have a good morning.
I get it. I get it. But, hey, heavy is the crown, man. And the only person that's been carrying that thing for 20 is LeBron. And he's been taking a lot of darts.
Ain't nobody saying Curry's LeBron, man. Like, talk about we doing straw man arguments this early on a Monday. Nobody in there.
Listen, man.
No. Listen, if anybody in their right mind is like, yeah, Curry is better than LeBron, then walk away from that conversation because they are not stable. I don't know what to tell you. But if we're talking about Curry and being great, that's a different conversation. Oh, come on,
hey,
man.
You need to be on national news because once he won his 4th one, people are, hey, whose era is it? Is it Steph or LeBron? But anyway, hey, John Morant, DB.
Yeah.
Hey, Ravi, do you have kids?
Hell no.
Okay, so DB.
Yeah.
Hey, man, how hard are we working as fathers? Trying not to have our kids be John Morant.
Well, you ain't never lied. Back after this. That's a great take because he's right. Coffee and Cream. Michael Severe up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes.
Hey, Trey, you had a really good senior, but you said you're going to run a 4.2 at the 40. You still going to run a 4.2?
You go see. I don't like to talk about it. When it's time to do it, I'm going to just do it. Go Big Red.
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, Trey, you had a really good senior, but you said you're going to run a 4.2 at the 40. You still going to run a 4.2?
You go see. I don't like to talk about it. When it's time to do it, I'm going to just do it. Go Big Red.
TP. That was Trey Palmer coming off a money-making weekend.
Yeah, wasn't bad for him. He did okay.
No, he
did okay.
It's so weird.
Put some cash in his pocket.
Yes, he did. And it's so weird to watch him because I was saying this, all these broadcasts, I was like, you know what? It doesn't even look like he's moving that fast, but he's fast.
Yeah, he's like a glider, though. Like it's a real smooth. Some guys look violent when they run.
Metcalf.
Yeah. And he's not like that.
No.
He's a very natural runner, so it's hard to tell how fast he's going.
Yeah, that would be Roy Halou, Amon Green.
Yeah. Like
Michael-
natural striders.
Our next guest. as
Well,
we
I
welcome-
don't know if I'd put him in that
Oh, man, he
category.
looks like he has wheels, man. Got new knees as Michael Severe. My ace Boone joins us. Good morning, buddy. What's up?
It's so better than you calling me your Ace Coon. Ace Boone is much better than Ace Coon. Good start to the morning. I like that.
What's up, Michael?
Hey, I got 3 things real quick. You have the straw in the iced coffee so you don't spill when you're driving. Maraschino cherries is why Betty Ford, they figured out she was an alcoholic because she was drinking all the maraschino cherry juice there in the White House. And then the last part is, whenever Lance calls, just yell J.J. Barrera and hang up on him. That's all you got to do.
I'm just saying, I'm out here trying to have a real conversation, and he's like, Steph ain't LeBron. And I was like, okay, way to slay your paper tigers out here, my guy. Cool.
Listen, man, Isaiah Thomas is the greatest point guard of all time. I don't care about anybody else.
I actually, I'm not going to argue that a ton.
That's such an old guy take.
Imagine this. Seriously, and I'm old. I'm 53 years old. They would have broken Steph over their backs. Like, just boom. Like they did to Batman. That's what happened to Steph.
Okay, yeah, let's pretend like they were actually guarding out to where Steph hangs out anyway in the 80s.
Well,
man, they didn't guard out to like 18 feet when Zeke was playing.
Oh,
would he have ever driven to the basket? Would he driven to the basket ever?
No, because nobody
would've
guards
driven
with
to
the
the
3-point line. Why? The only reason he goes to the basket now is to keep people honest. If they aren't even guarding him out at 25, he's just living. He's living at 25.
He's lucky that they figured out his ankle and his foot problems. He would never be playing again. Good for medical science. Nice job.
Wow. Oh, I'm sorry he's not playing in Chuck Taylor's. My bad. Sorry he's not playing in canvas shoes.
I was really hoping that Rogers would be on the show. What happened to that guy?
He's not feeling well. Hey.
Oh, a little sick child. Okay.
Hey, so who does Michael Severe take? My favorite, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs?
Well, only because let me ask you a question, Ravi.
All right.
What do you call Texas mustard?
Bijan?
Bijan. Yeah, baby. Anybody with a nickname like Texas mustard is my guy. I'm going Bijan.
Hey, so okay, and I know you play it safe, but what are and you're not taking a chance on quarterbacks necessarily, but what is the norm? What's Michael Severe's baseline to entertain making a move on a quarterback?
You mean like moving up in the draft to get it?
Yeah, like what do you have to see besides non-slumped shoulders?
Slope. I don't like the sloped shoulders. No, I think you have to have a certain amount of start in college football. I think that's necessary. And you have to prove to me over a season that you could be consistent. Like Josh Allen was his sophomore year when he had talent around him, he was consistent. Right? If you don't show me at least one season of consistency, it would be hard for me to draft you. And Will Levis, I don't know if he's had a complete year of consistency. He had like 8 games with Wandale Robinson. I don't believe he had a full year of consistency. So it'd be hard for me to go Will Levis, but any of the guys that have had full years of consistency, CJ Stroud obviously would be fine with me. So that's my main thing. Give me a full season.
So if you're struggling with the full season and consistency with Will Levis, how you feeling about this conversation about Anthony Richardson going? I mean, some people are talking about number 1. Where's your head at when you hear something like that?
Let me say this about Anthony Richardson. You want to talk about shoulders? That kid has got Atlas's shoulders. He's carrying 2 worlds on either shoulder. So I like that. But, yeah, you watch him throw the ball. He's so raw. He can't open his hips very well throwing to the left side of the field. I like his deep ball. That's the easiest thing to throw in football. It would mean me saying I'm going to Steve McNair him, and I'm going to sit him for a full 2 years for him to learn the game and how to throw the ball consistently. And I don't know if you can do that anymore. I don't know if the NFL allows you to sit a guy like, Aaron Rodgers said, or like Steve McNair said. I don't think they do that anymore. But he would require that for me to play.
Hey, how big of a riser for you? And I know we've agreed that offensive line, man, it's hard to gauge. But I think we both like Skoronski. as the first guy off the board at tackle. But how quick of a move is Broderick Jones making for you?
He's so athletic, and you watch him in space, those space drills they have him do, and he looks like a tight end the way he runs. I think the interior offensive line this year is as good as I can remember. Not necessarily big name guys, but just sure. I've got 37 starts under my belt. I played for a good team. You saw me succeed against good talent. There's so many of those guys out there. I really like this offensive line. The only thing I like better is probably the tight end class.
Yeah.
And that's because tight end now is what? You could argue it's the second most valuable position in terms of skill players in football. Because, yes, you catch the ball, but how do you block them when they're moving now when you can't cut them anymore? So you got a guy like Washington, 6'7", 260, running a sub-4 short shuttle, and he's in the open field. He's going to block. You can't stop. You can't cut him. So it might be the second most valuable skill position in football now, that tight end spot.
Do you realize his 10-yard split is only 2/100ths of a second better? I was at 216 pounds. I was a 1.55 10-yard split. At 265, he's 1.57.
That is, and one of the best 10-yard splits I ever saw, comes from running backs. Running backs always have that great first 10 yards. His first stride, though, is like 3 running back strides. So that's why he can do that. But yeah, I can't imagine him on the edge blocking. What do you do with him? I have no idea what you do with him.
Severe, I wanted to hop back to quarterbacks real quick.
Yeah.
Bryce Young came in, I think, quite a bit smaller than even a lot of people expected. What's your level of concern there? Do you care at all because of his playmaking ability, or where are you at with the Bryce Young of it all? Because I mean, 5'10" was, I think, much smaller than we were anticipating.
Yeah, that's what Todd McShay said that he was going to be, and he thought it would be 194. So at least he came in over 200.
Right.
What I learned from Russell Wilson more than anything else in his evaluation was if you throw the ball over the top, you make yourself taller than you actually are.
You're talking about your arm slot, right?
Yeah, right. Okay. He throws over the top. So if you are a 12'6" curveball guy like a Russell Wilson is, he's throwing really from like 6'3" instead of throwing from 5'11 and a half.
Sure.
And Bryce Young is that way. So instead of throwing from 5'10", he's throwing more from 6'2". So I have a little bit more confidence in him. My concern with him is I don't know if he can make all the throws when there's a muddy pocket. So he's got to go to a place that's going to really protect him really well, what San Francisco did this past year for Brock Purdy, and I think he'd have a lot of success. I'm not as concerned about his height because of his arm slot as I would be if he was a 3/4 guy. Anthony Richardson, for example, is almost a sidearm guy. So instead of throwing from 6'4", he's throwing more from like 6 foot.
He's got a little Lamar Jackson from that low slot, that 3/4 deal.
Sling. Yeah, he slings it instead of throws it.
Does he concern you?
Which one, Anthony Richardson?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just everything. I mean, everything about him. Like I was saying earlier, he's so raw, man. I mean, you got to give me a great quarterback coach in 2 years for me to make him that guy and get to an everyday NFL quarterback. Unless you're just going to run him a lot and use him that way. Taysom Hill him if you want to do that because he's big enough and he's a strong enough athlete. But to throw the ball from the pocket, he's a ways away from that. Hey, Damon, I want to do a throwback real quick.
Okay.
All right. So dead or in jail, pick one. Ready?
Yeah.
Most disappointing University of North Carolina basketball recruit in your time being a fan? King Rice, Joe Wolf, Rayshawn Terry, or Leaky Black?
Rayshawn Terry by a hair, King Rice right there. Great call on Terry.
It's horrible, dude.
He is.
Take an open 11-footer to win a game.
Listen,
He's
man.
so bad.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're twisting the knife and you're laughing, encouraging him, Ravi. Lulla. He drives me crazy. Caleb's probably, if he wasn't in class, he would be laughing at you right now because he likes to give me a hard time about Leaky Black too. I'm just trying to get into the tournament, right? I just don't want to be Michigan, right? Yeah. Or Villanova. We got to win 2 games.
Two games in the ACC championship tournament.
I think
so.
But yeah, they for sure got to win 2. But hey, I got to ask you this though, because you're my wide receiver guy, and we've had some great debates.
Yeah.
How does Palmer not turn into Jonathan Ross?
Well, I don't. How many injuries? So Jonathan Ross had a shoulder and a knee by the time he was a sophomore in college. I don't. Does Palmer have that many injuries? Yeah. I don't know.
No, he doesn't.
He's been pretty healthy.
That's what I concerned about. John Ross wasn't just that he was a Blazer; it was all the injuries he's had. And then as soon as he got drafted, he got hurt like in training camp. So that's what worries me about those guys: injuries more than anything else. But I see what you're saying. I don't trust. I probably only trust the top 4 wide receivers in this draft. Everybody after that, even Keyshawn Booty, who I've watched a lot of LSU, I don't quite trust him.
One of the best in the business. You never a dull moment. Apostrophe, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, real quick, Ravi, you going to New York City?
No. I'm doing that from here.
He's going.
I have a steak for you. In your honor.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Hey, be safe out there, my guy. Appreciate you.
All right, later, guys.
Love that dude. That is Michael Severe. Back after this with Sam McKewon.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Here is the sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Sam McKewon.
We're gonna throw the ball, and you just stand back there and throw it where you want to go. That kind of thing.
Sam McKewon.
Are you guys going? Sure.
Now, Sam McKewon.
One of my favorites, Sam McKewon, the bigwig over at Lee Enterprises. Sam is the man. A lot of pressure, Sam, but per usual, I know you can handle it because you're the guy that came on this show, Coffee and Cream, right around February 11th or so, 12th, whatever that Monday was, and said, Nebraska can get to 14, 15 wins. And I looked at you and I go, they pull that off? I know, Sam, you saw Nebraska basketball winning 5 out of their last 6, didn't you?
Not exactly.
No, there's no way.
But
you did kind of say they would finish better than we thought.
Yeah. I thought they might get to 14, maybe 15, but I don't know. I didn't think they would win yesterday, which I thought was pretty impressive, honestly, against a team that, scores a lot of points. And so I'm still kind of scratching my head as to how they won yesterday.
I know, right?
What's that?
You looked at the offensive rebounds given up, kind of the start Iowa, or how did they win that game?
Hit a lot of threes, and they're really good on offense at this point. I mean, they're tough. They're a tough team to defend if they make threes. They're one of the best offensive teams in the Big Ten right now with the group that they've got. Iowa's not a great defensive team. They don't care that much about defense, but I thought Nebraska played quite well yesterday. So I know they made a lot of mistakes yesterday, but they still, they played well enough to win that game in an atmosphere that did not favor them. Fred Hoiberg's kept his job. He's good to go. Might even have met the metrics. In fact, I think he probably did.
I think he did.
Get his money back. I think it's going to be an interesting offseason. Chattel is going to write a little bit more about Fred today. I think either today or later this week. He talked to Fred on Friday, and there'll be some more detail about the interest that other players potentially have in Nebraska. So I mean, obviously, this is not a one-year deal. They're not bringing them back. They're not bringing enough back from last year's team to be able to just kind of do what they want to do. So they're going to have to figure out a few things along the way in terms of player transfers.
Sam, I keep asking this question, and I haven't gotten a satisfactory answer yet, so I'm hoping you can give me one. What from this year's team, which I think was better than many of us expected, or certainly better than I expected, what from this year's team translates moving forward? As you mentioned, they are losing a bunch of pieces. It's not like this is an NCAA tournament team, so you don't have that type of momentum going into next year. What do you see that you look at? Obviously, Hoiberg's going to be back, but what do you see that you look at that they've done this year that you think they can build off of moving forward, considering what they lose?
I think they've got an offensive identity. Now, people will talk about the defense, and I think they certainly do play harder defensively. They have a little bit more of an edge. But I feel like if you can find somebody, similar to Derek Walker as a scorer, he doesn't necessarily have to be Derek Walker as a passer. I think you've got something a lot closer to a true identity. I mean, they're playing offense like they know what they're doing. And it took a while for Fred Hoiberg's, system to work, but I think it's worked. And I think they've found some ways to get it done. Now, again, you've got to find some players to fit into that. Casey's return will be in my opinion, important to that journey and that discussion, getting him back. But, you know, if you can find some pieces that can get things done, I actually think they can improve on defense. I think with Blaze Keita having a full year of health, and I think Blaze has got 2 years left personally, because the COVID year didn't count. So if they can get Blaze to full health, I think you've got a really good defensive center right there, and better than Walker, to be honest with you. But if you can find, you know, some pieces offensively, I think you can continue to have a defensive identity, and I think you can maintain that on offense. And so I think you'd have, you know, in my opinion, a pretty good team. But again, that so much depends on the portal. We'll see how this season ends up. I mean, they play Minnesota. I actually think that's a difficult matchup. Minnesota has nothing to lose, and they can score. You know, they can score. They're not very good defensively, at least not for 40 minutes. And so they got to beat Minnesota. And then they play Maryland, and you know, Maryland is if Maryland's rested, they're going to be tough to beat, because a lot of what happens with Maryland is they get tired. They run out of gas. They ran out of gas against Penn State. They don't have a ton of depth, but you know, if they got everybody and they get 3-4 days off, I think they're going to be tough to beat. And then I believe Indiana is the team after that. Nebraska does not match up well with the Hoosiers at all. So, you know, they'd have to win 3 down there to make an NCAA tournament case, and I think they probably would have to win 4 or 5.
Sam, let me ask you something, because we've been having this conversation for a couple years now about can and should expectation levels be fluid, even though we start out with whatever the basic premise is, right? I look at Big Ten wrestling, I look at Nebraska, I look at the conference they participate in, and I look at baseball, the Big Ten conference and the conference they participate in. Who had the better weekend, in your opinion?
Between those two programs,
yeah.
You know, I think wrestling had a good weekend. You know, I'm sure they're disappointed that Rob didn't win the Big Ten title.
I wish that would have been scored differently in the first period, Sam, but I hate to be an officiating guy. I really do. But that takedown gets called correctly, and maybe we're not having this conversation.
Yeah, I think that's possible. Wrestling is a tough sport to score, and
it really is.
You know, oh yeah, it's hard. It's hard to score, and the sport at the collegiate level, as incredible as it is, they've got to find a way to juice it with more scoring. You know, otherwise the sport just kind of stays where it's at. So I don't know if they relax the rules or whatever they're going to have to do, but it kind of just stays where it is at this point, because the wrestlers are so good at being defensive that it's just almost impossible to score. So you don't have a lot of upsets, a lot of fluidity, although Rob did lose. Baseball had a good weekend. Yeah, they beat Vanderbilt, and that's a big deal. You know, by the time they get to Sunday, Ole Miss is deep into Nebraska's rotation, and you know, I think the Huskers weren't able to win that one, but you know, they beat Vanderbilt. That's a very big deal. That's a gift that'll keep on giving. I think Vanderbilt's a very good team, not a great hitting team, but very good pitching, and so I think that'll boost Nebraska's confidence. If you look at Nebraska's home schedule, the baseball team's home schedule, it's very weak. They're going to win a lot of games this year. The question was, were they going to win some games early that would justify the 40-win season? I think a sweep in South Alabama, however good they are, and then that win over Vanderbilt will travel really well. So I think baseball probably had the better weekend, even though the wrestling team had a great weekend and they might be the number 3 team in the country. You know, I think baseball probably had a slightly better weekend.
Sam, does this weekend change your, you know, DB was talking about expectations. Does it change your expectations at all for Nebraska baseball, or is it just a nice confidence booster moving forward?
It does not change a lot. You know, I think Maryland losing 3 this weekend, they're the favorite probably in the league, and they didn't compete very well at the Cambria Classic. So, you know, I think there's a little bit of glimmer of light there, but I think the Big Ten is more competitive and more difficult the Nebraska baseball fans and sometimes Nebraska baseball media make it out to be. You have to go beat the teams that know you the best, even though those teams aren't necessarily very good consistently. They've scouted you for years, so they know you. And so it's harder to beat those teams. So I think Nebraska's goal number one is to, make the Big Ten tournament in Omaha, which they didn't even do last year. And its goal number two is to, put itself in position for an at-large bid before it even goes to the Big Ten tournament. Goal number three is to win the Big Ten. And they have a chance of doing all three. And I think that's where they need that. So that would be my expectations for that.
Hey, Sam, in our weekly, it's become daily. And I don't know if you and I are on the same page on this or not, but I haven't been I'm cautious on putting toes in the water with Dylan Raiola. And I'm not saying I know anything more or less than anybody else does. I just have been very reluctant. I'm not one of those guys that believes he's done the silent commit thing. I think it's a 50-50 deal. And right now we've seen some crystal balls as of late over this weekend, and in particular from Steve Wiltfong, who has now crystal balled Dylan Raiola to Southern Cal. I'm not even a big crystal ball guy. I look at some of my own kids' percentages and I'm like, they're making this up. So, like, where are you, right? I know you're a context clues guy. You appreciate good deductive reasoning. Where are you with – because I think I'm in the minority, no pun intended. I'm not one of the local guys that's like – shoot, I think I'm one of the few that's not. Like, I'm not – I certainly don't think it's any foregone conclusion at all.
Oh, no. I do think it's between two schools. I don't think Georgia's is really in the mix here.
Hey, did you see how he teased us this weekend though with texting or tweeting back with his buddy that was he was like #GoDogs with the Georgia emblem? Yeah. I'm like, it doesn't seem like Dylan, but I think he's messing with us.
Yeah, I would say it's USC or Nebraska, and the case is very clear. And I'll write about this more at some point. I'll tell you what. One thing I don't have a bunch of inside knowledge on this. I'm just reading it based on following and covering recruiting for 15 years, and just the logic that I've drawn from it over the years. So this isn't like, just so you know, like I'm not going to give you some sort of weird cryptic answer. I am saying that I think it's between those two schools, and the choices are pretty clear. If you want an incredible college experience without being certain that you're going to win Heisman, without being certain that you're going to go first in the NFL draft, but being pretty confident that you're going to play for a team that's going to win some football games, then you pick Nebraska. Everybody's going to know who he is here. I think people are going to like him a lot. He's a likable kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got a good coach, and I think they're going to get better. And what that looks like, I don't know, but it could be 8-4, it could be 9-3, it could be winning some games people don't expect you to win, beating Michigan in 2025 or whatever. I don't know who they play in 2025, but something like that, and kind of getting this thing going again. Kind of what they thought Adrian was going to do, even though he had the wrong coach. You could do that, and I think he would have an incredible experience here. I think there's a real chance for that. I think if you ask Tommy Armstrong what his experience was at Nebraska, yeah, there was some odd situations and ups and downs, but shoot, I mean, Tommy was, he was a quarterback in Nebraska football for 3 years. I mean, he didn't really complain that much. 4 years. The flip side of the coin is USC, and USC, you're going to win a Heisman Trophy, and you're going to be the first pick of the draft. Now, this is where people will go back and forth with me, and they'll disagree with me. But I don't think he's going to be that big of a deal in Los Angeles. And somebody will tell me, well, Los Angeles USC football is like the third biggest thing there. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Okay. It's not, but okay. And so, I think if you want to go win a Heisman Trophy and you want to go do that thing and be on TV a lot and be the guy and have an NFL whatever, then that's where you go. And so it's going to come down to those two things. And then Nebraska has to prepare itself for the possibility of getting Rayola, because that changes the conversation for Nebraska. You have to expect that if you land the number one player in the country, you're going to have to play the number one player in the country. So, those are things that both sides have to consider. That's my breakdown of it. And I don't think it's going to change that much.
Sam, have you allowed yourself to consider at all what your expectations would be if Dylan Rayola does end up at Nebraska? Because somebody asked me that question the other day, and it kind of took me by surprise that I realized I hadn't even
how few of people actually watch his film.
Well, not just that, but just I hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about what does that mean, wins and losses? The whole thing for me has just been about, is he going to get here or not? Have you allowed yourself to think about that at all, about what the expectations would or should be if Nebraska does land the number one player in the country?
Well, the way you would look at it is you would look at it like you would look at war in baseball. And so the fundamentals of Nebraska football will not be determined by the quarterback. They could have a great quarterback and not be right in all the other areas where you got to be right, and you're not going to magically win 9 games. And so job one for Rule and his staff is to get those things right. That's line play, that's self-discipline, that's, consistent competence in special teams, which last year they had, but they didn't have prior to that. That's the basic stuff. And I, for what it's worth, I believe Rule believes the same. I don't think we're going to get the quarterback, we're going to throw it 42 times a game, and we're going to beat Purdue. That's not their vision. And so that part needs to be true regardless of who the quarterback is. But if that part becomes true and you suddenly get the quarterback who can throw all the passes and make some of those big angle throws possible, then you can go into a double-digit win category. So his war kicks in, provided that he's surrounded by other pieces. Football is a weak link game. It's not a strong link game, and it's not an individual game. So Dylan Rayola does not exist in a bubble. And so he needs the weak links in Nebraska's program to get better for his strong link to matter.
Sam, if you're taking a look at what you want to see happen this spring, and listen, you've done this a long time, how long, in your opinion, to validate what it is that you think about this football team, do position battles need to go on for you to be confirmed?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a different way of asking it. Well, I think that to feel really good about where you are on some of the line spots, that I think you want a robust, lengthy competition at a few positions. If Ty Robinson and Ben Scott lock down their spots, that's fine with me. In fact, I think you need to decide at center pretty quickly, because that becomes the vocal leader of that group. And so I think that's important. It's important to establish who that player is going to be, so that he can kind of lead him into the offseason. Simultaneously, I think Ty Robinson would be, he decided to come back for another year. It would be good to see him, solidified as a player. At some of the other spots, you would hope it's in many ways ongoing. I would hope, given all of the players that Evan Cooper has in the secondary, that they're able to develop more than just a handful of guys who can go. So, you want to hear that because they have a lot of talent back there, or in theory they do, and you'd like to hear that the competition is robust. I think you want to hear that at running back. Although, again, what I'll be listening for at running back are the guys that we thought were going to emerge last year, that is Gabe Ervin and Ramir Johnson, progressing. Because last year was a conundrum to me. And you have all this positive talk about these two players who then never play. And yeah, one of them was banged up a little bit, but it was very strange to me how it became a one running back team. And don't get me wrong, Anthony Grant, in my opinion, was the best one. But the fact that they weren't able to put other guys in, and then, in the Illinois game, Ramir Johnson gets that pass and he drops it, and people are ticked off. But Ramir Johnson, that was like his first play of the game, and it was only like his 7th play of the last month. And so, it's one of those deals where it's like the guy's not playing. You're asking him to go in a spot and make one single play, and that's not easy to do. And so, I'll be curious to watch at that position. I don't know. I wish I had more. We'll just have to see how the wide receiver stuff shakes out. I mean, we don't. I don't know that. Maybe you probably know more about this than I do. I don't know how the 2 guys that came back are doing. It's clearly talented players. Betts is obviously talented off the charts. Garcia Castaneda is talented, in my opinion. I'm not sure how that's going with them. We're going to talk to Rule today, and maybe he'll drop us a line there. We're supposed to talk to Thomas Fedoni.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Sam, if he's healthy, I'm just telling you, look the heck out. And I don't get like that too often. Right? Yeah, I've said very little about Fedoni for 3 years. I'm just telling you, if he stays healthy, get out of that man's way.
That'd be good to hear. That'd be good to see. And then Chief Borders is the other one talking. So 2 guys that we know very little about. I mean, we know a little bit about Chief from his dad. Evan Bland wrote a story about his dad, and that was a really interesting story. But these are 2 guys that really haven't, they haven't done anything for Nebraska. So maybe they'll give us some insight. Thomas can talk. I don't know if he's going to be laying out the entire offense this morning.
If he's on his game, he's going to give you a little something, though.
Well, he probably will. But I just don't know if that's what he should be doing. He'll probably say something about the quarterback. Or like, what do you, but Matt Rule chose to have him talk. So
yeah,
he'll probably say something interesting today. He has a history of doing that. So we'll talk to him, I think, and then Borders, who apparently is a great quote, and was the points leader on the winning competition team. So that's notable. He's a big deal, and so is MJ Sherman. Those 2 players really need to have good years, and maybe they will.
Sam, we got about a minute here. Is there, you bring up Thomas Fedoni, since we'll be hearing from him. Is there a guy on the roster, whether it's Fedoni or somebody else, that feels kind of forgotten that you're interested in seeing this spring?
Well, Ramir Johnson would be one. Gabe Irvin would be another. Lineman, it's hard to, I don't know. Garrett Snodgrass. Want to see if he's back and what he's doing. I think they missed him last year. And he could take that Kolarvik role maybe, maybe being the 3rd guy.
Man, I think that's going to be Taggy.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, that'd be another one. There's some interesting players in the secondary that we don't yet know a ton about. So, I guess we'll learn more about some of them, some of the corners, some of the safeties. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys that I think you could point out. Ramir Johnson and Gabe Irvin are near the top of the list for me. Xavier Betts, who people have already forgotten about. We'll see what he can do.
Good call. Sam, fantastic, man. Looking forward to the presser today and what you and the crew come up with, man. Looking forward to it.
Same here. Take care.
That's our man, Sam McKewon, back after this with my main man, the other guy, Ravi Lulla.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Cream in the morning. Ravi and I just have a knockdown dragouts. Hey, listen, we love a little legal representation. How about dire law? If you've been hurt in a personal injury accident, maybe someone parked too close to the lines and they got out and they maybe hit you with the door or something like that, you can count on dire law, a team to provide you with a helping hand when you need it, no matter what you're dealing with, including poor park jobs and fender benders and anything else that may cause any bodily injury. You need professionals. So you can call Dire Law 402-393-7259 or visit Dire Law to chat. Trusted professionals about your personal injury claim. That's dire.com.
I just want to clarify the parking
Dire.log, excuse me.
The parking job in and of itself is not illegal.
Well, I wouldn't.
If there were some
I wouldn't
damages
call the guys at
created.
Dire just to say, "Hey, you know what?
Just
This
be
guy
like,
can't park." But
in the lines.
If
now if something happens,
if you're with your better half,
if
and let's
something
say
happened.
you're the one driving and she gets out of the passenger's side, and I'm getting out at the same time, and
then we might have a situation.
She you know,
the folks at Dire
dislocates my elbow with the car door because you're so close. We'd have to call Dire Law.
No, see, if I got somebody in the passenger seat, I always ask, like, hey, you got enough room over there? And if they don't, then I line her back up.
But self-admittedly, and I'm giving you a hard time just because I am like the parking
that's
Gestapo. But you were like, I'm admittedly, the first thing you said to me was, admittedly, I'm a bad parker.
So
I'm bad at parking.
I would say I'm not going to like 3-point parallel park. Like, that's not my jam. Like, unless I have a lot of room, I'm not making that happen.
And you have 2 big vehicles.
Yeah, so like it's just I'm gonna have to walk. I get it. It's fine.
Is it the radius with your arms? Those huge ball and socket shoulder joints?
No, honestly, I think it's I'm a little overly cautious with my depth perception when there's other cars around.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to like cause an accident there.
My depth perception is super sketch.
There's
2 pair of glasses on my dash. Oh, listen.
They don't do you any good on the dash. You got to wear them, Damon.
Bro, I got astigmatism. So at night, it's like, it's a crapshoot.
No, so it's as you can see in the photos that you put on the internet.
I tried to give an objective.
I'm in the lines, as people can see. Your big argument is I'm a little crooked.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
A little bit.
And
I'm very close to one line.
Yeah.
But also look at what is surrounding me in those photos. Absolutely nothing.
Again,
we are in an empty parking lot.
Like DL Hughley, you're messing it up for everyone.
I'm not, though, because there is no everyone.
But there will be. You watch about 9:30 when the crew comes. They'll all have to go someplace far.
That's all right. It's good for them. Get your steps in, fam.
It's okay. It's okay. Let's go to out of breath, Brian, quickly. B, what's up, man? Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Just okay?
Yes. Yes, a couple of things. You know, just first thing on my mind, I was watching the NBA this week, and I kind of had a thought after watching them, the referees. It kind of remind me of that new special by Chris Rock where they have selective outrage on the calls that they make. But that Phoenix game that this did with Devin Booker and when he got real physical and gave him the chicken wing in the chest, but didn't call him. Like, they let offensive players him bump his shoulder into him like 3 or 4 times and didn't call nothing.
What are you
doing the incident?
What do you think Devin Booker said to Luka Doncic when Luka missed the bunny down the stretch that got Luka mad?
I think he said
looked at the monitor for 15
minutes. I think he said something to the effect of, "Who the blank you looking at?"
Yeah,
that's what I think he might have said to got that. And you know, and speaking of that, and I'm going to transition to this weekend. You know, my son's first year wrestling. He came in second place in the finals. I didn't know it was going to go to 10 o'clock. And I want to say this: OPS should be ashamed of themselves putting that thing at that middle school where you got bleachers on one side. Half of the school is a middle school environment, and the other half is elementary, where you got an auditorium in it. There wasn't enough seats to sit. There's a wrestling coach who I got a call on that goes to that school or teaching at that school over there on 60th Street. He had a poor attitude with the kids because there wasn't enough room. He was looking for somebody to start something with. As well, I had to make a call because a female security guard acting like she wants to start a fight.
No, hang on, B. I can't just allow OPS slander. Maybe that was the only venue available, and it's a brand new school. Granted, I get that the gym needs to be big. Oh, I thought you were at Buena Vista. No. Hey, Norris is like the Taj Mahal. Have you not seen the renovations?
They got no renovation. We had Beverage has 2 sets of bleachers on both sides. They had bleachers on one side at that place. It caused a lot of frustration. It either caused frustration in that coach. I understand he was mad, and I can understand what he was mad about. There's not enough room. This man was a big man trying to walk in a little bitty space provided by that school. They could have chose somewhere else, but it did cause some friction.
Right,
That's a shame.
I just can't allow
they
for the
should
OPS
have
slander, though.
I'm not. Come on now. I went to OPS. I give OPS his credit. I just want to hold people accountable for their actions and what they do. You can't go halfway in.
Like me calling dire law on Ravi because he's causing bodily injury. He's causing me stress by this park job. That's what's happening.
That's not bodily injury. That's mental distress. That's a different deal.
Same difference.
That's all I got, fellas.
Hey, B, let me ask you something real quick. Did you understand? Did you understand, contemplate, like the whole Jalen Rose response to John Morant? That's got to bug you, man, because I know a lot of people in general, but in particular African Americans, the whole John Morant thing where they feel like they can relate, but it's still bothersome, is getting old, right? Way too many things happening with pistols.
Yeah, I still don't. I don't get it. Why they do that? Why he would do that? He's risking too much to even do that. Haven't you learned from Plaxico Burress? Keep them guns up off you.
Well, it's interesting too because Paul Pierce feels one way, Jalen Rose felt another, and I'm just thinking it's hard not to empathize with African Americans that have all of a sudden acquired a lot of money, but I think something appears to be wrong with Ja himself emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you haven't, some people when they get into that range where they become a star, they might not be used to the fact that they still got to stay on their P's and Q's. To me, it seems like he's just relaxing in the fact that he thinks everybody likes him, and he let that go to his head. That's what I see. It looks like he's just letting it go to his head. He needs a reality check.
Yeah,
calm me down. That's it.
No, you can give it to us. I need everybody to. What should we do, B?
Hey, just calm down. Calm down.
Thanks, B. Have a good week. I just need everybody to calm.
No, I mean the John Morant thing's tough.
It really is, and it's not his first kind of
because you can't be out there acting like that.
No. And that's his own IG. Like, nobody put him up to
That's
that.
what I mean, is he didn't get caught on something. He's putting that out there himself.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's not the biggest problem, but of the peripheral problems, that's the one that concerns me the most.
Did you like the immediate ownership? Or was it not immediate enough? Yeah, you gave me that look. He's like, yeah.
When we're this many things in, it doesn't feel like immediate ownership because I don't look at it compared to the last event. I look at it compared to the first event.
Hey, so
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I know Memphis has kind of gotten under your skin, especially as a Golden State guy.
Well, it's Dylan Brooks. I hate Dylan Brooks.
And with the premature anointing and all of that. But are you surprised at how quick Memphis has fallen off?
No, because they're really unlikable. The way they play is really unlikable. I get that Ja is super exciting on the basketball court, right?
Yeah.
We're going to leave the other stuff out for a minute here. On the basketball court, he's super exciting and fun to watch. But like, I don't know any person who actually likes basketball except for maybe some of these like 80s old heads that are like, yeah, we got to punch him in the face.
Here we go.
No, you know the guy I'm talking about. The guy's like, yeah, we got
Michael Severe?
Yes, exactly. 100%. No. You know, the guy that's like, oh, we got to punch him in the face, give him a bloody nose instead of giving up a layup. It's like, or maybe you just play defense and don't get burned out on the perimeter, get into the hole. How does that sound? Maybe that's an option here instead of creating violence.
Oh, he's fantastic. We'll be back with another segment. We still didn't get to the Jays.
Nope, we haven't got to the Jays.
But hey, listen, if on a serious note, though, if people do park like Ravi and have a tendency to park like Ravi and you maybe get a door ding that you need to get worked out or fixed, get to my folks at Dingman's Collision Center. So good at what they do. 4 great locations, family-owned and operated, local. 25 years they've been in business.
There you go.
You're pretty good at what you do. And who knows, you may park next to big vehicles like Ravi and may need to get it fixed. See the fine folks at Dingman's Collision Center. Back after this with Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
The best thing about working with Ravi while Andrew Rogers is sick is you're a walking endorsement opportunity. We got our legal issues taken care of with Dyer Law, and we have our auto body shop.
So you want to know?
Tingman's
You want to know the
figured
truth here?
out okay, tell me.
So, I've never had a door ding, given or receiving. Okay, my wife, who I think is probably a better parker than I am. So there's some self-awareness there, just so you know. Gets door dinged all the time.
Really?
And I have no idea it's the most bizarre thing in the world. I have no idea, because she was driving this one for like a month while I was trying to figure out a new vehicle for her. Within that month, boom, door ding. I was like, there was 2 on the one I traded in. That was hers. 1 on each side. I'm like, what is happening here?
Are you?
You're like, see, you should not give it rip like I do.
Well, so I had to have a conversation, and I'm sure you can imagine how well this went over.
By the way, Twitter's like 60-40 with you.
That's right.
But
in the lines.
But I'm starting to get some folks on my side now.
In the lines.
But that's not good enough.
Listen.
He said, listen.
We were talking last week about the lowest common denominator. In the lines, lowest common denominator.
Hey.
I am beating a very low bar.
So my man PK on the low bar. Maybe it's the cell phone reception. Speaking of which, my man Dan he said, did anybody tell Sam McKewon that his cell phone microphone is the worst? And my man PK in my DM was like, hey, we got to figure out Sam's audio.
It was real quiet. I had to crank the
I'm
the
cranked
volume.
too. Like you're like yelling it. And I know I'm a quiet talker, but
it raises the effect. You kind of.
What were you gonna say, Liquid?
Are you guys when you park, when you go up to a place, do you wait to get the closest parking spot, or do you just go and get a parking spot?
Let's go and get a safe parking spot.
I'm a close parker. I am.
So you're that guy that'll wait for the lady to pull out. And
I was even at Costco this weekend, Saturday, and I know I'm gonna have some things to like
wheel out,
and I still don't care about how close I am. But they have the greatest parking spots ever invented.
They do. Costco, because they got the extra gap for your carts and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Costco, I don't as much because it's always busy, so it's like you can't afford to wait. Yeah. If I catch an early one, I will. I'm trying to get better about it. It's not even about being close. It's just about, I don't even know what it is. It's about winning. I feel like if I get a close parking spot, I win, which I don't win anything except for I don't have to walk as far. But it's like a mental thing for me more than it. I don't know why. It's like, I don't want to park that far away. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like from my dad. Like my dad couldn't pass up a good deal on anything. He was one of those guys that would think, oh, you can't afford not to buy it. The deal's so good. And I feel as though that's how I've become with parking spots.
Oh, shoot.
I don't know where it came from because I don't even care that much about being close or not being close.
It's very principled.
It's just I gotta get a win here on the parking spot. I gotta catch that dub.
Hey, speaking of needing a win,
yeah.
Whose expectation? So which game were you watching and you're like, yep, this team started about like I thought? Was it Nebraska with the quick start against Iowa, or was it Creighton with the slow start against DePaul? Which one did you feel like was more indicative of the team's personality?
Ooh, that's a different question than what we started it with. Because I was kind of anticipating.
Well, I just figured if you thought indicative of their personality, it may lessen your level of surprise.
Well, so I wasn't surprised because of the situation. I really wasn't terribly surprised by either. I didn't think. Wasn't super surprised that Nebraska came out again with a hot start against Iowa. That was a game they put a lot of emphasis on. It was, I mean, they were, I don't know, were they playing for more than Iowa? I don't know.
I do think like the last home game senior day. Remember, Iowa had just rolled.
Yeah.
Indiana. You're 11.5 point. I think they were 11.5 point favorites.
I think that's where it ended up. Yeah.
I mean,
I wasn't surprised that Nebraska punched them early. I also wasn't surprised that Creighton came out sloppy against DePaul. That's kind of what I expected because a lot of games at DePaul go that way. And this particular Creighton team has a tendency to occasionally not come out super sharp. And coming off of a drubbing of Georgetown, you're kind of just probably overlooking them trying to get to New York, trying to get through the regular season. Obviously, this regular season hasn't gone how Creighton wanted it to go. So at this point, I think a while ago, once they had accumulated enough wins that they weren't worried about being on the bubble anymore, they just wanted to get it over with. They just wanted to get through the regular season and get on to the part of the year that could actually salvage the perception of how this year went.
Now that you kind of know the schedule and the layout, I want to go back to our 6-pack of questions last week, which I felt like were fairly difficult. I'm still thinking about a couple of them. One I maybe want back.
The size one?
Yeah. The quarterback size one. I may want back. If you weren't listening, one of the 6-pack of questions brought to you by Zipline Brewery. You can tell I love this endorsement thing, right? I can like weave them.
Yeah, you're a natural. I love it.
It's whatever. But Zipline sponsors our 6-pack of questions that we do every week. And I asked you, would you rather take elite size and good athletic ability, or
you said good talent? So I was including arm talent.
You're right.
Okay.
Talent
okay.
versus elite talent and average size. And I think the word average threw you off, but as we looked at Bryce Young's measurements,
which is below average to me. Is that fair?
The weight was average.
Yes.
The height was below average.
And what's weird is even though the weight was above average for his height, I still think it's average or below overall.
Yeah.
But for his height,
but I didn't want, and I'm glad you made that distinction, because I didn't want the word average to think like, mid. I just meant average as in like normal size.
Yes, the median, right? He still feels like he's very small framed to me, which is the part that Severe talked about this, and we didn't have time for me to push back on it. But that's the difference between.
Lord knows you like to push back.
I really do. That's the difference for me between him and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is built stocky.
Yeah.
I do not get that vibe from Bryce Young. Bryce Young is lean.
So I think the thing with...
Is that fair? Is that a fair distinction?
I think the thing with apostrophe and Russell Westbrook was the motion.
Wilson? Yeah. The over the top. No, and I get that. But my question to him wasn't so much about the height. Maybe I should have framed it better. Was the frame. His frame feels fragile is probably too much, but concerning.
Okay. So, and that was one of the questions I went back.
Yes, and that one was really tough.
But I thought this one was tough, and you answered it easily.
Well, it's because I
said Creighton was -1.5 in conference tournament wins over Nebraska, and you took Nebraska. So,
because you're telling me Creighton
has to win 3 games,
has to get to the final.
What if they
Nebraska
only had?
Doesn't win
so
any?
What if Minnesota ups? I think you'd call it a minor upset, especially a team that's won 5 out of 6, and they just beat Minnesota.
And they swept Minnesota this year, yeah. Although one of them was in overtime.
If Nebraska doesn't beat Minnesota,
Creighton still has to get to the final.
They got to win 2 games, though, right?
But they have to beat Nova, who just drubbed them. And
Nova's not going to get in the tournament short of winning the Big East.
Correct. Yes, but they're playing good. Do you want to play them right now?
Well, no.
That's my point.
If I'm Creighton, I don't.
That's what I mean. Like, I would have rather have gotten the UConn.
Everybody else seems to not mind playing Villanova down the stretch, but
I mean, they're playing pretty well.
Yeah, but we were even giving them the benefit of the doubt even after the loss or two, and we're like, oh, they're starting to get it going. It's not like they were running.
They're a bad matchup for Creighton.
Yeah,
with Dixon, they're a bad matchup for Creighton.
Were you at least happy that Kalkbrenner got the double-digit field goal attempts?
It's about time, man. I need that dude at 12 to 15 a game. I don't know how that doesn't happen.
He got to 12.
I know, but that's like a high for the year, I think. That needs to be, we're talking about average. That needs to be his average, not the outlier.
Hey, at what point is it our responsibility, or are we messing it up as media? Because, Creighton, again, 8 of 21 from behind the arc. And I'll go all the way back to like week 1 talking to Matty DeMarinis. This was like week 2. And they only played like 3 or 4 games, and he was concerned about the bench. And so we were talking about style of play and shooting. And he's like, space and pace, and they're a good shooting team. And I was like, well,
are they a good shooting team? They're a streaky shooting team.
And I kept saying that. Are they?
They're a streaky team.
Is Creighton a good shooting basketball team when I talk about from behind the arc?
Not consistently.
Yeah, I just don't think they are.
They can have games where they will light you up.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're an opposing team, and this is what Nebraska did, you have to say, yeah, beat us from behind the arc. If you could do that, you win today. If you don't, it's the same thing Creighton does to everybody. They pick a thing that they're willing to give up. And if
everybody not named Nimhard or Alexander was 2 of 10 from behind the arc.
Yeah. If I'm a team playing Creighton, I say, hey, if you beat me from 3, congratulations, you win today. Kalkbrenner's not going to beat me. Alexander's not beating me to the rim. Nemhard's not beating me to the rim. You're not getting me on lobs. Kaluma's not getting me slashing. Like, if you can beat me from 3 today, congratulations, you're moving on.
Can I ask you something about Kaluma? Because I was just getting ready to give him a ton of credit for bouncing back those next 2 games after being benched. And then we're kind of back to the 1 of 6.
Yep.
Who's of the 2, who's been more of the enigma? Baylor Shireman or Arthur Kaluma?
So I think Baylor, because I expected more consistency out of Baylor.
Really?
Yes.
Remember the preseason talk about Kaluma?
I do, but you were anticipating a leap. Everyone was, right? You were anticipating a leap with Kaluma. Shireman had a pretty long track record at college basketball. I get it, Summit League versus Big East, but you would think there would be a level of consistency there that I haven't seen. With Kaluma, because of his style of play, I anticipated some up and down.
Ravi Lulla continuing to throw curveballs. I feel like I need to now scoot up in the box. But then you get all testy, and I know I'm going to get a heater.
You're getting
so I don't want to be crowding the plate.
Throwing the chin music, baby.
Coming up, we're going to get a little peace and calm down with Brady Oltmans.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Ray Palmer ran from Nebraska. Yeah, he's fast.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Cream. Ravi Lulla taking the number 2. Actually, he's kind of like 1A because sometimes he controls the conversation, which is totally fine with your boy because I'm okay with being.
You share well. You share well.
I am okay with being Robin, but I'm going to the Batman of recruiting for Hail Varsity as we get Brady Oltmans in his usual time slot this morning. Mr. I love it because he's got a little creativity to his game, but he has the nice blend of pragmatic, like, hey, I know I cover recruiting and some other sports. Let's not get over the top. My man, Brady Oltmans, giving us perspective on a No Manic Monday. Good morning, B. How are you?
Oh, man, the winter came back around. I wasn't quite ready for that after yesterday, but
hey, so gosh, there's so many places we're going to go. That's why I like that you have the big slot here at 9. Let me start with recruiting just because it comes natural. It's Dylan Raiola. And you sometimes, I know you just want to roll your chair back from the computer screen and be like, woosah. They're 17, 18-year-old kids. But now we see some crystal balls for SC. When they were crystal balls for Nebraska, we were, silent commit. They're crystal balls for SC now, and one of them is Wiltfong, and I'm like, we know better. Like, where do you balance out the Dylan Raiola sweepstakes, which seems to be daily in terms of changing?
Oh, it's tricky because, and this one I think I'm kind of two minds about it. I mean, Wiltfong he's in pretty good contact with the Raiola family. I mean, he's a pretty reliable source of information with them. They get back to him right away. But also Dylan kind of stays in close contact with Lincoln Riley. I think they talk just about every day.
Yeah, quite a bit.
So they've got a good relationship there, but also he just took a visit to USC, and now's the time, they're taking their visits. And obviously things are bright, fresh, and energetic right after you come back from a visit. So I kind of temper, even if he came to Nebraska hypothetically last week and said, crystal ball for Nebraska because he just loved it. Like, you temper that because he just came off a visit kind of thing. But it's still a big recruiting month. He's going to go to Georgia, and then he's going to come to Nebraska, in a little over 2 weeks now. So it's just going to be that time. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see crystal balls for every team on his big board flying out there before he makes a commitment.
I asked, I think it was Mitch Sherman, probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I said, hey, how much will it matter that who swings last? Who has the last at bat? Now I'm thinking about it a different way because I saw the tweets. He's tweeted at Georgia recruits. He's hashtag go dogs. He gets the emoji. That's the same time that he's in Southern California. But I'm not blown away by that because he's there 3 times a week anyway, right? So I understand context, but there's still this whole Georgia thing. If it's recency bias, Brady, can anything really change dramatically from March 25th? To when he was just here last weekend visiting his uncle? Because I think you get a better picture outside of Junior Day. It's the day-to-day that gives you the better picture. He maybe has seen the best Nebraska has to offer because it was just about him.
No, I think you're right there. And I think the Rule coaching staff and their recruiting mindset is a little bit more, hey, we're here for you day to day. We're not just going to pay attention to you for the parties. We're going to be here every single day for you. I think maybe what does the VIP Junior Day a little bit more solid for Nebraska is Dylan was here, I guess 2 weeks ago now, or just over a week ago now. And so you get him on the front end there, and then you get him again in Nebraska on the back end after visits to USC and Georgia. So he can really kind of sandwich expectations of the little bit more intimate me time one-on-one versus here with these other high profile 5-star, 4-star recruits that come into Lincoln on the junior day. So it's really kind of a two-way approach, but all of it's based on that kind of personal one-on-one relationship building thing that the Rule coaching staff really stresses in those visits.
Brady, I know we talk about Dylan almost exclusively in the class of 2024, at least seemingly recently, but big picture, we've talked a lot about how the class would look with him. If he ends up at SC or Georgia or wherever, what are your expectations for the 2024 class if it does not include Dylan Raiola?
I think that the big differences are Dylan immediately gives you validation on a national scale. He changes the perception of the Nebraska program to a lot of recruits. I know that talking with the vast majority of their head coaches, Nebraska still means a lot to them, but to the recruits themselves, I think it gives you a huge stamp of approval. Whereas if hypothetically he were not to commit, I know Nebraska's still looking at some recruits and some quarterbacks that they really like. I think that they'd be happy getting those recruits still. But I think that, and you might still be able to get in some of those big time recruits, those 4 stars that you try to bring in for the junior day or even outside of that. It just kind of, the impression I get is that if you don't get Rail at this point, there is some kind of wind out of the sails, at least in the temperament of fans.
It's interesting. You know, I listen to a lot of Nebraska fans. Not a lot. I don't want to be misleading, but hey, you know, he's talked to this top 100 recruit. Obviously, I know the McMorris family really, really well. And, well, hey, you know, he's reached out to Isaiah, or hey, he's reached out to D Hall, who I know pretty well. Let me talk about the other guys, though, because I think context matters. And I'll just say this. I think a guy saying, hey, you need to check out Nebraska is different than, hey, meet me at the finish line at Nebraska, right? If you know what I mean. Like, I think he could clearly say to Isaiah, hey, listen, man, you know, you need to really take a look at Nebraska. This and this and this is what they do. The reports may be, hey, he's recruiting for Nebraska. If you're guys like McMorris or Hall, and I think McMorris may, I don't even know if I want to say this out loud. He may have a little bit more upside just because of his frame, and he's not quite as polished as Hall, who's a big, strong, older kid. When you look at what else is going on around Raiola, how important will that be for Nebraska in terms of their image if we just talk in-state 2024s?
Well, I think the Rule coaching staff is really good. This is one thing I'll credit them entirely on, and Matt Rule kind of mentioned this in his signing day press conference that he had with us at the end, was congratulating every single kid in the state of Nebraska who signed on and went to play college football, even if it was, you know, D1 to Nebraska or Iowa State, all the way down to the NAIA ranks, divisions 2, 3, everything in between, because it's a big deal. Not very many people get to play college football at any level. And
it's hard.
and I think, I can't remember the exact tweet, but there were a couple I saw, you know, Rule would like some tweets about in-state kids, you know, going to Nebraska Kearney or going somewhere else. And I think the Rule coaching staff is a really good job of reaching out, and they want the best for the in-state kids. Obviously, they want the ones that they want to come to Nebraska, but I think they're taking the approach that the rising tide, you know, raises all boats, and they want the best for the kids in the long term. And ultimately, if that's to come to Nebraska, they're all for it. But it's a way to kind of boost everybody else up and get everybody around. Now, obviously, with Isaiah and Davon, they want them. Like, this, make no mistake, they want to bring those guys in. A guy like Carter Nelson, they want to bring in. I think I've said this before, you know, Danny Kalen they want to bring him in, but he just has the unfortunate circumstance of being in this particular class with that one particular recruit, you know, from Arizona in town. So it's just, I think it's a way that they got to be able to juggle it, but also they've got a couple of months behind them. By the time this recruiting class closes, they'll have an entire football season behind them and almost an entire calendar year as a coaching staff together. I think at that point, the cohesive vision amongst themselves and to recruits will be conveyed. And I think you have a little proof of concept to show the recruits.
Brady, I'm glad you brought up Kalen because I was wondering, it's a very strange dynamic between him being an in-state kid, but you've got this legacy best player in the country at his same position. How do you think they're doing in terms of balancing showing Kalen that he is wanted and that he's, basically doing all the things that the previous staff didn't do with Zane Flores, but also with the understanding of, hey, you're not our first choice at this position. Like, how does that work?
This coaching staff is really good about being upfront with kids and not trying to sell them a false bag of goods. I mean, they're going to be very transparent with the recruits. They're going to be very open and honest in communicating their visions for if they were to come to the program, or even just, hey, we want you here, but kind of thing. And I think that there's a certain attention that they're still paying to Danny. From my understanding, there's still a lot of, hey, we would like to bring you in, but we've got this whole other thing going on versus, I mean, he's getting attention from Miami and the ACC and even on the West Coast. I mean, he's becoming kind of a national commodity. And I think it'd be naive to think that those other schools aren't looking at Nebraska's recruitment for Raiola and saying, okay, we can make inroads with Danny Kaline and come in and potentially, get this budding 3-star, a high-end 3-star caliber kid from Nebraska and bring him over while Nebraska's in pursuit of, the shiny diamond 5-star plus.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple guys in this class, I think, whose star rankings will change over the next handful of months too. So, but let me validate you here just for a second, because you said something earlier, and I think if we're just kind of listening without really, or if we're just hearing without really listening, you said, hey, listen, there's something different about these junior day weekends versus the personal day-to-day approach. I just heard a coach Friday night, and my son was smart enough to get it off Bluetooth. Where they're talking, and so I asked what happened after, and he said, hey, listen, nothing official, but they talked more about the day-to-day, stop in at practice, come see mat drills, get us on an odd day. And the quote was, junior days are cool, but the magic happens in the day today. So when you said that early, we haven't talked. You can vouch for that. It's not like I said, hey, Brady, this is what they said. So I'm trying to figure out where you got the kind of the feel that it was the day-to-day on how they do business and not just the one day rolling out the red carpet experience.
Well, I think it's from talking with a couple of the high school coaches who have, a couple of them have got a chance to talk to some of the recruits. Sometimes I'll exchange a tweet or a DM or something with the recruit, or just congratulating them on a visit or something. And they'll say, something like, thanks, like it was wild, kind of thing. But also there's a certain, I think, a part of the immediate culture shift with Matt Rule and his coaching staff is stressing. I think Mark Manning, Nebraska's wrestling coach, was in, at conditioning
last week.
Day.
Yeah.
And it says like
Brady, I cheered my brains out. Two of my favorite people on campus right now in Rule and Coach Manning.
Well, and Coach Manning said, fall in love with the process. This is what it's about. Go for it. And I think if you love what you're doing and if you love that grueling work, it doesn't become the grueling work anymore. And I think it's part of what made Matt Rule so successful in the shift at Temple, and then completely making sure that Baylor didn't go in the ground after all that happened to it after a fairly successful Art Briles run that ultimately, ended in the way that it did. There's a reason why he's become the turnaround artist and the guy who does that. And it starts with those little shifts in culture that you're starting to see now in Nebraska.
Brady, we're talking about the day-to-day and the process and using that as a recruiting pitch. How different is that, not just from the previous staff, but you talk to a lot of recruits, they experience a lot of different coaching staffs around the country. Is that fairly unique around the country as well? I guess I'm not. What's the frame of reference for that being?
Yeah, Brady, how often are you inviting people to your house on a Monday and a Tuesday at 9 a.m. versus when you prepare to have company, right? Like,
yeah. It's kind of like if you've got dishes in the sink, how many people are going to say, hey, come on, just swing on by kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it is, because there's I would say a decent amount of coaching staffs in the country will say, hey, come on in this weekend, or we're planning up this big thing and getting you all in there. Whereas I would say a far fewer amount of coaches are willing to say, hey, do you got time tomorrow night? Come on by. Like,
completely agree.
We're gonna be here. You know where to find us. Like, come on in. We don't care if we're just in sweats or anything like that. We're not dressed up for you. We're gonna be like this when you come here now, or 3 years in the future when you're at class and a 2-year role player. I think it's just breaking down those boundaries and saying, hey, we're people too. If you want to come in here, it doesn't matter what time, door's always open.
Yeah, you guys got to ask yourself, because even I'm going through this real time from a different perspective, right? Obviously, working for the network is different.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fanboy kind of thing, right? When it's somebody in your household and you're listening, it's different. So I'm gauging opinions. But when somebody can say to you, "Hey, listen, come anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait for the standard invite. Drop on in," because watching us interact with our players on the day-to-day is where the real magic happens. How rare or how refreshing is it, I guess, I would say, that you're trusting that no prep time, just come watch us. You'll be blown away. That's basically what they're saying when they say, you don't need a standing invite. Come on over, watch us with the guys. Like, you have to feel pretty secure. If I said, hey, Brady, I don't really know you from a hole in the wall, come on by anytime. My house better be in order.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's how you know what they say they're about is what they're actually about, right?
I had to kind of pause at the stoplights the other night, because he really didn't want to go to the March 25th originally, because he felt like it would be pomp and circumstance. Now, they said a couple of things later on, and he's like, okay, I'm coming on the 25th, but I think you do have to guard against that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking with Darren Flint, father of Ian Flint. And I don't think he'd mind me saying this. I talked to him last week, and his daughter throwing at Nebraska kind of is also, I don't want to say moonlighting, but also working in the Nebraska football staff, kind of in the recruiting part. And he's like, we have an idea of what to expect. We know these kinds of people from just her interactions with the coaching staff, and so we know the kind of people they are. That person is exactly who we see when Ian, goes up to visit, and the exact same person when we call and talk to him or anything like that. There's no, there's no image that they're trying to project. You're the exact same person to a recruiting staffer, to a recruit's parents, all across the board, rather than just put up for pomp and circumstance. With this coaching staff, a lot of these kids are finding out this staff is the same thing on Monday morning as they are on Friday night, Saturday afternoon, trying to get you in the door.
100%.
Do you think this? I guess I'm kind of taking a leap here on the question, and feel free to be like, I have no idea, Ravi. Just stay on my face with that. But do you think that's part of the reason why this staff in particular seems so much more comfortable being out in public all the time? Because they're not. It seemed like the last staff was not a super personable staff. Is that a reasonable?
Maybe at least authentic in public. I think they were good when they were in their own element,
sure,
but maybe a little uncomfortable outside of the kitchen.
Whereas,
as a chef,
is this kind of the same quality that we see with the recruits we're talking about, where, Matt Rule, I mean, we talked to Dr. Elza last week. They're just out there.
Hey, she was
being
unreal.
Who they are. Like, is that the same thing we're seeing, where it's just like, hey, you can see us anytime, any place, and this is what we're about?
I think it's a moment of pointed concentration for this coaching staff. It's also highlighted in, I think Rule had mentioned it in one of his, his introductory speeches, of saying, we want to be part of the community. We want to be part of being here. One of the things that they've implemented right before competition week gets going for their winter conditioning to end it this week is, they're building up teams. Part of that is going to different events, building up points, taking selfies, and, showing that we had 3 guys on our team at this tennis match or at the basketball game, and then you win points for your team. I can tell you yesterday when I stopped by the, the soccer trifecta at Hawks, you had
Bless your heart.
Yeah, I couldn't get a great view because they're up on the balcony and everything, but it was still great. And Teddy Prohaska, Malcolm Hartzog, Anthony Grant, all those guys were there, and you'd see them taking a picture and sending it to coach to say, "Hey, we're here, we're getting some points." Part of that is because they want to be involved in the community. They want to be involved in other sports. They don't want to be just the Nebraska football team, which I think understandably so. You are on the highest level of celebrity if you're a Nebraska football player in the state. Mm-hmm. They want to break down that barrier and those boundaries and cut out the risers from underneath you and say, no, we're all just Nebraska here, and we're not going to be celebrities. We're going to be among the people at any given point.
We're talking with Brady Oltmans from Hail Varsity. He's covering all things. You just got a hint of his versatility as he just dabbled in women's soccer, which is it's near and dear to my heart. Let me end with this, Brady. We got about 3 minutes here. I want to validate what you're doing, because I think you're spot on when you talk about this bigger than self. I want to be a part of this, because I think our listeners need to hear clearly. It's not even just about always getting the points for competitiveness. It's number one, being competitive and understanding that you're part of a bigger picture. And if you want to be really good, I don't care if it's private sector, teams, whatever, you have to kind of be selfless and understand that it's bigger than you while being competitive. I don't know what the formula is to mesh those two things. I just know when it happens, like when I can cheer for Lawrence, even though it's at my expense, you give yourself a chance. That seems to be what they're building for in terms of just natural responses.
Yeah, again, Matt Rule has turned around successes or fortunes for football programs in the past. That's what he's made his bread and butter on. Part of that is exactly what he's doing now. And because the games that they're playing now, or even the games that they're playing in the spring, don't directly contribute to wins and losses, on the overall record, these are the daily things that they do to implement change and build that culture and do the exact same things that he said that they were going to do in the fall. And that's one thing that I've learned from calling people from here to Texas to Timbuktu about Matt Rule is that he does exactly what he says he's going to do. Yeah. And in every little bit of the culture change and establishing that culture that he said he was going to do, back just after Thanksgiving in the Hawk Center, is exactly what you're starting to see play out right now.
You have no idea how right you are in this segment, Brady. I'm blown away, but that's why we wanted to have you as a weekly guest.
That's right.
So, appreciate your time, man, and good luck. I should say best wishes covering all that's going to happen here in the next 2 months. It's going to be a whirlwind.
I'm going to get my seatbelt ready on my desk so I can make sure I don't fall off my chair here in a while.
Hey, appreciate you. Thanks. That's Brady Oltmans from Hail Varsity. I'm going to validate him one more time, and I'm going to read the text from Coach Rule when he said, just kind of going back and forth, and I'm just scrolling, and he said, hey, love me or not, go back to the opening day press conference when I was at your stadium. I've been who I said I was going to be since I got here.
I think it goes a lot further back.
Hey, isn't that weird? That because Brady just said,
feels like he's been who he said he was going to be for a while now, not just in Nebraska. It seems like this is who he is.
My man told me to go back to the presser and do some fact checking. Okay, bud.
I mean, I keep going back, and it keeps checking out.
I'm in. Coming back with my man, Ravi.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes.
73-55. Baylor's season low was 62 points in age. They have 55.
Across midcourt to the right wing.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Key across midcourt to the right wing. Drives to the basket. Reverse layup. He missed it. And that's your ball game. A must-win for Auburn at Neville Arena in front of a sold-out Neville Arena. Auburn 79, Tennessee 70.
Welcome back. Fantastic time of the year. It is March, and it is utter madness. Love the bump music, Shane.
This is a good bump. I like that.
It might be Drew Down's guy. Like, I think Andrew has a buddy that loves to do like music samples and stuff.
Okay.
We're still trying to figure out the licensing, but
don't worry about that.
Hey, can you imagine if we do figure that out and we use like music,
like real music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be tough for your boy. We may never get a segment done.
You do like to sing.
People
don't realize that about you.
I have a couple of different learning styles: memorization, the analogies, and music.
Oh, okay.
I can relate difficult concepts to one of those three things.
Okay.
Blinded by the light.
That too.
I don't even know how many of those I have.
Oh, a
but
million.
He has a ton.
There's got to be a million.
I hate when he does that. No, we've done.
Drives me up the wall.
We've done the Howie Day thing before. Collide. Let's move. Let's move on to the next one. Right. I did Keith. Okay, let's simmer down.
You may have done that more than once. I don't know.
Time to freak out. Like, are we? Is this what we're doing? Right?
Listen, it's your guy. This is your guy, man.
Is it that funny though? Like,
no, it's just that for whatever reason you doing the just kills me.
Shane, do you have the Keith Urban one?
That one just kills me. I don't know why.
Somebody was making fun of me about not knowing any country music, and I was like, "Oh, I like a few country songs. I like Keith Urban," and they didn't believe that I knew who Keith Urban was, so I did like a. I did like a little snippet. It was kind of show.
No, I don't know any country.
I mean,
music
it
either.
was so bad.
I don't.
But I really thought I was vibing because for like 15 or 20 years, when I do most of my singing in the shower, like the water kind of garbles you. I have my Bluetooth speaker,
So you think you're just killing it?
Yeah.
No, I know what that's like.
I'm Alicia Keys.
It's like when you're, you got a little buzz on,
yeah,
and you're like at a place that's kind of loud.
If I ever had a buzz in the shower,
you're not a shower beer guy.
I need help.
Help me. No,
I did fall asleep in the shower on my 21st birthday, though.
Well, that's understandable.
It's about 12:30 in the morning.
Anything that happens pre-25 doesn't count against you, I don't think.
How about Dumas just putting me in the shower like dressed?
I mean, that's a choice.
What roommate does that?
That's a choice.
He's like, yeah, have some water.
Just cool off, big guy. No, there's when you're like listening to music loud, maybe you got a little buzz, like you think you're the best singer in the world.
Yeah. So I always wonder, have you ever been the guy that's like driving and you're just doing your own thing in your car?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I've seen the greatest singers ever in their car, and I've seen the nose picking. So those are two things that I think people are consumed with in their vehicle and not understanding situational awareness.
So it's kind of like when we're doing this, right?
Yeah.
Because it's you, me, and Shane. That's it. Nobody else is
That's
here.
it.
Sometimes I forget we're talking to people.
Oh, I did that last week. I said some things I probably shouldn't
like
have
a
said.
lot.
Yeah.
Like I forget. That's why I'm so relaxed up here. People are like,
just a tip, Shane.
People are like, don't you get nervous?
Always.
I was like, no, I'm just talking to DB.
Yeah, sometimes
I do not get nervous.
Sometimes you feel like
you get a little loose.
This is on. And if you're doing it right, like that's how radio should be.
Yes.
It's just you're just having conversations.
But I think a lot of people do the same thing in their car. Like even though they've got windows all around them, like even though I've got a microphone in my
they're not like
face,
33% tent.
Yes.
And they're like constantly getting knuckle deep. And I'm like,
they're like digging
stop
for gold.
picking your nose in public.
But they forget that people can see them in their car.
We were leaving the Iowa West Fieldhouse, and Caleb, he was in the passenger seat, and we were driving, and there was this white Cherokee, and he kind of, wobbled a little bit, but it's 12 o'clock in the daytime. You don't think anything of it, even though people can drink whenever they want to.
Sure.
So I finally go around. He's in the left lane. I go around the right lane, and we had just seen the Omaha Scanner road rage thing. So I was Operation Chill mode, especially with my kid in the car. We looked over. My man was getting it like he was in studio. I mean, bobbing his head, and he was driving, and he was moving along to the music.
See, I don't understand how people dance.
And
while
I
they're
was
driving.
just like,
I don't understand the dancing.
And let up on the steering wheel if you're going to be doing all the
you got to have a loose grip,
gyrations, man, because the Cherokee was all over the place.
Yeah, you got to have a loose grip.
And all he was doing was vibing with the music. Caleb was like, man, Dad, he's getting it, isn't he? And I was like, yeah, it was driving me crazy, so we're just going to get out on
You
around.
can't be white knuckling if you're getting like the shoulders and hips into it, because then the car goes with you. People forget that.
I think he thought he was at the club.
Like, I'll get after it singing in the car. I'm not dancing, though, because you got to keep.
Or he's just like,
you got to keep. Listen, I'll do some head movements. You know what I'm saying? Like boom, bobbing, boom, bopping. But you can't go. It's like when you're shooting a basketball.
Yeah.
Everything else can move, but hips, shoulders, got to stay square.
Stay square.
You got to stay square with your steering wheel. Otherwise, we're going to have problems.
Stay square. As we just heard Shane come back from the highlights. Auburn upsets Tennessee. Apparently, Rutgers is not interested in being a good basketball team. Michigan,
Maryland,
North Carolina.
Well, I mean,
like what?
Okay, let's go North Carolina. Can we go North Carolina? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go North Carolina.
Okay.
I want to go big picture North Carolina here because
is Penn State in, by the way?
Maybe one more. I think. Give me one more.
I think Penn State is in.
Probably, but if you're them, you feel a lot better with one more, right?
Is Arizona State in?
I think so.
I do too.
I think they've got enough.
What about Wisconsin?
I don't think so.
See, I think they're in.
Do you?
I think
they might be. I don't know. That's the one where I'm like, I don't know. They've had some.
Let me give you one more.
Okay.
Nevada.
Probably not that a bad loss. This weekend, that was a tough one.
So Carolina's out right now. Michigan out.
Yeah.
Villanova out.
Yeah. Villanova has to win the whole thing.
Okie State.
Ooh, I'd have to look closer at their resume. My gut.
One more.
My gut tells me no on Okie State.
Rutgers.
I think Rutgers is in.
See, I think Rutgers is out.
Do you? Is that recency bias though? Because I get they're not playing good right now.
Oh, they wet the bed.
No, yeah, they're dribbling down their leg for sure.
Yeah,
but I think the overall they tell us. I don't necessarily believe them. They tell us they look at whole body of work, not last 10.
Yeah. Do you
whole body of work? I think they're in.
The first time I said that to Coach Frank, actually, I think I coined it with Coach Martin.
Mm-hmm.
I made it a regular part of my vocab with Coach Frank. I say it to Coach Samanji.
Well, wet in the bed?
Because I know that I've just seen these kids forever.
Yeah.
I know that regardless of what the public thinks, I know bedwetters when we play against them.
Oh, 100%.
Because I've seen it
Yeah.
since they've been in the 5th or 6th grade. Conversely, I also know that guy's going to find a way to win.
Yeah,
because he
always
always does, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when I say bedwetters, that's people are like, oh, bedwetter. That's just what I mean. Like when it's nut cutting time,
yeah,
it's like you're going to find a way to have to clean the sheets.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know exactly what you mean.
That seems like Michigan.
What, bedwetters?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are you trying to factor in their health or no?
I don't think their resume is strong enough independently of that.
So Clemson's out then.
Yeah.
If Carolina, so Clemson, Carolina,
yeah,
Michigan.
So let me hold on. As you're thinking, let me ask you about Carolina. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you surprised at all that this year went the way it did? Because I'm not.
No.
Because last year felt fluky.
Hey, so
right? The run last year felt fluky.
So our boy C Hap, laughed me out of existence over me not wanting to embrace Carolina being the #1 ranked team in the country.
I didn't get that at all.
I'm like, listen,
I didn't
fellas,
get it at all.
They're not good.
No.
They're not good.
Last year
they caught lightning in a bottle.
Yes, the outlier was the NCAA tournament run, not the rest of it. Because they were a bubble team last year until late February.
Yeah.
Mid-February at least.
I'm not surprised. Now, did I think they'd miss the tournament? No.
No.
But did I think they were
#1 overall team in the country? Absolutely not.
Not a chance.
That was the thing to me. I couldn't believe that people got so enamored with that March run last year that they couldn't see all the flaws that they had last year and that were coming back this year. They didn't fix any of those things.
I'm with you. Still can't shoot. And her shot selection is bad. That's
a bad combo, by the way. If you can't shoot and you have bad shot selection, that's a double whammy.
Who's the best team between Kansas, Baylor, and dare I say Texas?
I trust Kansas the most in March.
So Kansas will probably be on the 1 line.
Yes, the other two won't be.
Are Baylor and Texas 2s?
I think so. I think that's right.
We got to finish this up with Mike DeCourcy because this is going to be kind of hectic.
Oh, it's going to be really hectic. This is going to be a weird week.
Is this one of those things where like, oh, we always say bubble this, bubble that, but it'll be chalky at the end?
It's always chalky at the end. It's the first 2-3 rounds that you got to worry.
Maybe different. That's Ravi. Mike DeCourcy up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
We're tied at 65, 9 seconds to go. Jamal Shed into the front court with 6. Jamal Shed with 4. Jamal Shed top of the arc with 3. Shed, the jumper for the win. It's good! Jamal Shed with the winner at the buzzer.
Rebound to Buffkin. He brings it up the floor, half court, throws it away. Indiana's going to win it. Indiana wins.
One of my favorite segments, just because it's not just because he's a Steelers fan, it's because as a former BTN guy, you better ask good questions or this guy will eat you up because he's a straight shooter. One of my favorites from the Sporting News, Mike DeCourcy, joining us on Coffee and Cream. Mike, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
So I'm curious because I asked Ravi going out of the break. I said, "Hey, every year we talk about the bubble is soft or the bubble is this, and at the end we always want chalk." Is this kind of the first time in a long time where you don't feel good about chalk on the second weekend, or you think eventually it sorts itself out?
Well, it always could sort itself out, but what it reminds me of is the 2014 season. In 2014, Arizona went through 2.5, 3 months of the season with an undefeated record. They got to somewhere around 20-0. And then in the 21st game, maybe, the Arizona Wildcats went to the Bay Area and they played, I believe it was at Cal. And Brandon Ashley, a power forward for the Wildcats, broke his foot. And he was done for the year. And they went from being the one great team in the country to just a really, really good team. And they wound up losing the Elite Eight in overtime to Wisconsin. And so what we were really left with that year was a lot of very good teams. And that's what we have this year. It's just not 2015. The year later, we had 4 great teams, and one of them was going to win the championship. And the one that did happen to be Duke. We don't have that now. We're not even close to that. And I don't think we're even really all that close to a year ago when we had guys like Banchero at Duke and we had the terrific Kansas team. There were some really extraordinary teams that were out there. I don't think we have that this year. We have some very, very good teams. And somebody's going to win the championship. But would it shock me if we had a 7 and an 8 seed play in the championship game like we did in 2014? It would not.
Mike, you mentioned, okay, so maybe we have a 7 and 8 seed playing in the championship.
That may be like Michigan
game.
State or somebody.
I was going to say, is there a team that you're looking at in that range that you see, hey, this team, if they start getting it right? I mean, I know at different points in the year, Arkansas looked really good. They've got some NBA high quality talent. You've got, the pedigree with Duke.
Michigan State.
You mentioned Michigan State and Duke. Are there some teams in that like 6 to 9 range that you're looking at? Yeah, I could kind of see them making a run to the Final Four, maybe beyond.
Well, I don't mean to pander, but I'm sure your audience will appreciate it. I've looked at Creighton all year as a team that has that ability. And I don't know why they haven't hit it as often as they need to, but it's still there for them. I mean, they've got a tremendous point guard. They've got a great center. They've got multiple wings who can hit from 3. They've got guys who can get the ball into the lane, Kaluma. It's a really good team. And I can't tell you why I understand why they struggled early because of Ryan's sickness, but I don't know why they still have a game like the Villanova game, that sort of thing. It's not an embarrassing performance, but the team that wins the national championship can't have games like that.
I'm just looking at maybe the potential 6s, and Northwestern's in there, Creighton's in there, Kentucky, Duke. So just say that out loud, right? Kentucky and Duke kind of in that 5-6 top half of 7 seed line. Let me ask you about Northwestern, just because we're right there, both doing work with the Big Ten Network. When you look at Audige and Boo Buie and this backcourt, we know it's a guard-driven league. Pickett and some others get all the headlines, but how quiet good is this tandem in the backcourt in Evanston?
Well, at their best, they're fantastic. We haven't seen Chase's best on a regular basis for a while. He's still an exceptional defender, but he's been struggling with his shot for a little while and has at times forced some action. Boo Buie has had a magnificent season, and I voted for him. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it or not, but what the heck, I didn't get paid for it, so I will say it. I voted for him for first team All Big Ten with the AP. I think he definitely deserves it. He had a magnificent year, and I said this on the air last night on Big Ten Basketball and Beyond, that I've been at BTN for 14 seasons, and I've never seen a player progress from a standpoint of how he plays the game, the maturity, the understanding, the command he has on the floor. I've never seen a player advance as much as Boo Buie has at Northwestern.
Mike, I asked Damon this because he's a UNC guy, but what is your level of surprise that a team that was preseason number 1, was the national runner-up last year, is currently on the outside looking in of the NCAA tournament bubble?
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was every reason for them to be very good again. And I knew that there were issues last year that led to them not being great all year long, but I thought that they were resolved when this was not a fluke that got them to the Final Four. They played exceptional basketball, and they beat very good teams from Baylor in the second round all the way through Duke in the Final Four. I thought that they would resolve a lot of that. And then when they started slowly this year, I know that part of it was depth problems. They didn't have a lot of depth. They were injured and or developing. And then I also thought there would be a little element of understanding, or at least suspicion among the players that, well, we didn't really get going last year until March, so we'll be fine. And I don't know if they really were thinking that, but if they were ever going to turn it on, I mean, they've got 4 days left, right? They got to do it this week or it's over.
Mike, at their peak, who do you like? Because I think they both have some room for growth. Michigan State or Illinois?
Oh, at the peak, Illinois, but finding that peak is, I mean, it's, if you played 7 days in a row, they'd probably hit the peak 1.5 days. I mean, they're just the most difficult team to understand that I've seen this season. And I've talked to people around the game, and they all feel the same. I mean, I'm not saying everybody I've talked to, not everybody in the game, but I've just encountered that sentiment from so many different people that you just can't understand why they aren't more consistent. Michigan State, I can rely on them. I know exactly what they'll be up to, whether or not they'll make jump shots on that day. And lately, most of the days, they have made those shots.
Mike, I want to go back to the Big East real quick. Kind of the leader from mostly day one has been Marquette, even though they were picked 9th to start the year. When you look at them, what is the hole in their team that you look at and say, yeah, they might be a 3 seed, maybe even a 2 if things break their way. But this is the thing about Marquette that I'm worried about in March.
Well, I think eventually just the fact that they probably don't have the high-end NBA talent probably costs. I mean, when you get up to the 2 and 3 line, most of those teams have a pro or multiple pros and maybe a first-round pick. And I think Iguodaro has a chance to play in the league without a doubt, and maybe Tyler Kolek eventually does too, because he's such an efficient player. He has such an unbelievable understanding of how to play, and the two of them both, Iguodaro and Kolek, I mean, together they are really hard to defend because they both pass the ball so well. So they'll both probably play in the league, but they don't have the first round pick that everybody's looking for that usually leads to Final Fours and deep runs in the NCAA tournament. So I don't think that there's a real problem with that team. I just think that eventually, and maybe it happens in the Final Four, but eventually they'll get out-talented by somebody.
Let me go back to the upside question, because I've liked them all year, and maybe I just hear what I want to speak into existence. But I think, a healthy Xavier Johnson and Hood Schifino would have been nice, especially to go with the front court. But I think Indiana has the makings, especially if Copp's making threes. They have the makings of a problem child. Do you like Indiana in a stretch run on short prep?
I do, but they do get into frustrating stretches like they did yesterday.
Well, they
against
turned the
Michigan,
ball
where
over.
They were absolutely dominant for a while. And then they did turn it over a little bit, but more so it was the fact that they weren't defending at a high level. And they can be a very solid defensive team. I don't know about elite, but they can be very solid. And yesterday, for most of the second half, they were not. And then late in the second half, they tightened it up, and they were able to get through that game in overtime. But I don't know if the defense is quite good enough. Again, you can make a Final Four run with flaws. You just can't win a championship with them. Eventually, they get you. Those last 2 games, they're like 2 Mount Everests. and eventually you're not going to be able to get all the way to the top.
Mike, we got just under a minute here left with you. Is there a team that's currently on the wrong side of the bubble that you look at and say, yeah, they probably deserve a chance at the big dance?
At this point, no. Because if I thought they deserved it or warranted it, I'd have them in.
I thought you may say Rutgers.
Rutgers?
Yeah.
Well, they're on the right side right now, so I wouldn't include them in the conversation. The teams that are on the outside for me are teams like Arizona State, Carolina, Nevada, Utah State, Michigan. They've all had chances, or haven't. In the case of the high major schools, or they haven't been dominant enough in the case of someone coming out of the Mountain West. So I think that, like, if College of Charleston were to lose in the Colonial Championship, I think I'd feel bad about that one, because they'd be looking at 28-4, somewhere around there, and I think they probably would not get in, but that would be a team I would feel badly for.
Thumbs up, thumbs down to Wisconsin needing to win one.
Oh, definitely up, especially since it's against Ohio State, sub 500 team.
Mike, never disappoint, man. So good at what you do. I appreciate anytime we get a chance to chop it up with you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. That's Mike DeCourcy from College Sporting News and BTN, and my man Ravi Lulla. We're going to do this again tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Same bat time, same bat channel. More parking jobs and more. It's Coffee and Cream.